Hey, everybody. We're doing a call-in show tonight. Should be good. Let's do it.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. Burby. Here I am. This is an open phones show, which means that if you've got a camera, webcam, camera on your phone, you can come on the show. That is what you can do. That is the link. I just posted it in the chat. It's in the description down below. Anybody who wants is welcome to come on the show tonight. Now, we're also taking questions, just like we always do. If you don't want to come on and you just want to send a question, you can send a Rumble rant, you can send a buy me a coffee, or you can cash at me. But the best way is always to send a buy me a coffee. It is the best way to send questions if you want to send a question. But yeah, tonight's show is really just a chance for people to hop on. So this is the link. Join the studio. If you want to ask me about anything, you want to tell me about what's going on in your life, I am heading out of town. That is my story. It is final. I got what I needed to get in order, and I am headed out of the country for a few days. So I'm looking forward to it. Travel is something that I do a lot because of my life circumstances. And so yeah, I'm heading out of the town. So I thought, what better way to kick off, to kind of sign off for a few days than that. Here we go. David, how are you doing?
Very good. Thank you. And how's things yourself?
Oh, I'm great. Got everything in order for my trip. I've got a whole bunch of videos really long videos to premiere while I'm gone. I've got 7 hours of solidarity with Venezuela. 7 hours debunking Trotskyism, 8 hours exposing Kamala Harris, a couple other ones, they'll be premiering on the channel while I'm gone. I'm headed overseas. I got some of the book. I've got 5 or 6 copies of these to take with me to give to some of our international friends so they can see the organizing. You're in the book, by the way.
Thank you for compiling all that together.
Yeah. Your speech is in there. A picture of me and you. I'm holding the Eureka flag. You've got "Don't Tread on Me." Good stuff.
Yep.
And how are things down under?
Oh, look, we obviously the big issue for us. I mean, obviously we had the huge rallies on Sunday in support of Palestine, and obviously with the news that's coming through about Venezuela, Latin American Solidarity Network, or LASNET, was known as, they're organising now Hands Off Venezuela rallies for the 25th of October, which I've set up to our discussion group there. Obviously, there's one big rally already organised in Melbourne for the 25th of October. They're looking around every capital city. So if any of the viewers, Australian viewers, just keep an eye out for them. Much support as possible. Though Venezuela, we've got very little interaction between the two countries with Venezuela. But however, I mean, even the unions, we've had engagement with Venezuela before. We've had tour groups, a whole lot. So it's something worthwhile to keep an eye out. We're just keeping the message to do a Hands Off Venezuela rallies themselves. I think it's good timing to do it. And obviously what we're seeing now with the Middle East, with the Israel-Palestine issue, I think the deep state's looking elsewhere at the moment. Don't know why they want to. We pretty much, if they touch Venezuela, it was more or less not to so much take it over, but just to destabilise it to such a degree that need the oil. But they really want to focus more on China. I think that's the big prize in the game for them. at the moment. And with the situation with Ukraine now, even some Ukrainians are coming out. This has to stop now. So obviously, reading on RT and Sputnik News as words coming out there. Maybe it looks like we could be possibly, fingers crossed, coming to something before Christmas with that. But obviously, that China is the big focus. We've just got to keep our eye on the 8 ball there. But overall, it's with the economy as well. It's like with everywhere, like you guys in the US and elsewhere, it's not doing too good at the moment. It depends on. It doesn't matter what the government's saying. It is going down. More people are looking for work now. I love how they say the situation's stabilised and whatever else. Yeah, it's stabilising, but while going down, we'll have a stable period, then go down further. It's not actually ever going back up to where it was. So that's where we're at the moment. And I thought I'd just hop on now because I'm off to have some lunch with some people very shortly. And
how's the Great Southern Discussion Club going?
Yeah, look, let's come on together. We're just in the middle of writing some articles. I'm just trying to compile something now. I'm actually putting a short article in about fascism itself, and I think, look, you and I have had extensive discussions about that over time, and I think I hate that term fascism being used loosely and disconnected from from its actual meaning. I hate that. Anything it's authoritarian. Oh, it's fascism. No, it's not. Not necessarily mean they don't understand the essence of fascism is degrowth. And what we've seen, like over the last month, there have been rallies in Melbourne, like ones for anti-immigration rallies, and yes, there's Nazis involved. There's been all sorts of other groups, and then on the other side, you had the anti-fascist, anti-racism crowd. But the fact is, both sides are not offering growth; they're offering degrowth. Both sides. Right. They actually haven't got any economic vision for Australia at all. If I pose that question, well, what's the economic vision for Australia? They wouldn't have a straight answer at all. They wouldn't have a clue what they're talking about. But both sides are offering degrowth. And I wanted to say the essence of fascism is degrowth. Right. So, people go, increase nationalism, increase militarism. Well, that's happened before fascism and it's happened after it. And they need to understand the key essence of it. And I'm actually reading the book from R.M. Dutt.
Yeah.
And I would. Yeah, he really goes into detail. Someone asked me about Dimitrov's book against war and fascism. I said, yeah, that's good. Read that too. But I think that Arnold Dutt's book actually really gets into the detail about that, and it stipulates it pretty much from start to finish. I'm not far from halfway through it, so I'm reading a few pages every night and just digesting it. It's quite a big read, but I think overall.
But a lot about economics. That's the point. Is he gets into the economics of why capitalism is collapsing in the 30s with overproduction and all of that. And it's a really important book. We need to get our own edition of it as CPI published, I think.
That'd be great if you could.
Yeah, I have an introduction I wrote, and we just it's a matter of getting it laid out, which I think I can do now. So yeah, that's something. Maybe I can do that while I'm traveling, actually, because I have a lot of downtime while I'm on the plane. I can finish laying out the book. That's something I ought to do. All right. Well, anything else you want to say before you go, David?
Yeah, just regarding the Great Southern Discussion Club, we got our next online study it's on Sunday. This is our Sunday coming up. The other thing, if you're having trouble Googling it, even if you just say Great Southern Discussion Club, we're having problems. Google's aware of the connection of it. It's nothing insidious. No, try another search engine like DuckDuckGo or Bing or something like that. You'll obviously get to it there.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, keep up the great work and have a good lunch meeting. All right. Talk to you soon. Yeah.
All right. Catch up. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye. That's David. He's always awesome. And next in line is Eli.
Hey there.
Eli, how's it going?
I'm doing good.
Good. What's new in your world?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about innovationism, and I have some ideas for it. What should be the symbol of innovationism? You all know how communism has hammers and sickles and bad guys with swastikas, but why not an innovationist symbol?
Well, if we had a symbol, it would probably be a train, because all the innovationist books have a train on the cover. So I feel like our symbol would probably be like a train speeding forward. That seems to be the symbol we're using. It's become kind of a joke. Some of the people I give our pamphlets to, they say, "Oh, another picture of a train on a cover." You know, it's become kind of a running joke. But I feel like that is the essence of what it is, because it's progress, right? And it's a high-speed train, and it's something you can point to in China, right? You know, the book What is Innovationism has a train on it. The Do You Believe in Growth book has a train on the cover. My book Getting Rich Without Capitalism has trains on the cover. It's just something that you can do. And you know, so that might be what our symbol is. What do you think? Do you think it's train works?
I can see that.
Yeah, David Fox says I'm a huge railway enthusiast. So me too. I think trains are great. You know, they're a lot safer than car travel. There are so few train accidents compared to car accidents, even though train accidents get a lot of publicity because they so rarely happen and they're a big deal when they do happen because the whole rail line shuts down. But, you know, if you compare the number of car accidents, trains are way safer. And environmentally, they don't use fossil fuels. They're electronic, you know, so if you're worried about fossil fuels, trains are a good way to go. And they're faster now, too. So I feel like a train could be a symbol of the innovationist movement. What do you think?
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Where are you at, by the way, Eli?
Chicago.
Oh, okay. Okay. Very good. Very good.
Some
Very
neighborhood or something.
Okay, cool. Cool. Well, we'll be back in Chicago again soon. I think we're probably going to do our convention there again next year. You know, it's looking like we're having an event in January to kick off the new year. And we published this book of the convention, right, which I'm taking with me on my international trip. I got to stack up them over here, right? And it's got, you know, a lot of photos from the convention and stuff, all the stuff transcribed. That's very exciting. And yeah, how have things been in Chicago lately with the ice and all of that, right? I mean, I've been hearing mixed reports.
Ice?
Yeah, it's been crazy in Chicago, right? People fighting ice and ice fighting protesters and National Guard, and right? Has your neighborhood been okay?
Yeah, it's a pretty safe neighborhood. I mean, downtown's going crazy.
Yeah, Millennium Park. We've done stuff in Millennium Park before. It's a place we can set up, you know, with our banner and bullhorns and stuff. And there's the Bean downtown, right? The Bean, right? And yeah, it's kind of a water park around the Bean or something, right? Like a concert area. And yeah, and the Loop, right? The Loop, the downtown is the Loop on the public transit. So, well, it's good to talk to you, Eli. Do you have anything else you want to share tonight?
So, I was thinking of, like, what are your thoughts on the ACP? I remember you used to be friends with him.
It's just not worth discussing. It's just, we've talked about it to death.
Sorry.
It's a demoralizing topic. It's okay. Anything else?
Sorry.
That's okay. It's just, yeah, I just don't want to go there tonight because it's just, why bother, you know? So, anything else on your mind?
Well, I mean, who's in charge of these ICE?
Yeah, good question. I mean, Trump, I guess, right? In theory, I guess Naomi, what's her name? Kirsty Noem. Kirsty Noem, right? She's the head of the Homeland Security Department, right? So she's running them in theory, right? Right. But it's so, yeah, it's certainly scary, and you can't get a straight story about what actually happened, right? But I mean, these videos of them dragging people off the street are absolutely horrendous. And I know a lot of people in Chicago are afraid to go outside, afraid for their relatives to go outside, and you know, so it's pretty scary stuff. Well, yeah. Best wishes, Eli. Thanks for tuning in, and you know, thanks for calling in and all of that. Yeah, we'll be thinking about an official logo for Innovationism. That's a good idea. All right, be in touch. Talk to you soon. Penny in Minneapolis, how's it going?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good. Yeah, just more good things out of Burkina Faso. I saw a post this morning. I think it was over 700, they call them white zones, that are going to be electrified this year. So, you know, just like you talk about the Venezuela and the Soviet Union, how they electrified everything. And so that's good. And then I told you yesterday about the Investors Forum investing in Burkina Faso. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Troy was there addressing the crowd and told them your investment is safe in Burkina Faso. It's safe. You know, they're cracking down on corruption. They're getting rid of the NGOs that are spying on the military, and they're training the youth, like from the little kids up to the high school graduates in patriotic immersion, so that they're not going to be a color revolution. They're teach them what it means to be a Burkinabe and why they're being attacked. You had interviews with, young people. They said, we didn't know why we were under attack, but now we do. And he talks to them about it's their subsoil. The imperialists want the land without them on it, and what they can do with the development plans that they have. So it's just amazing. And then I see the gendarmerie are cleaning, like the first day of school, they were out there cleaning the schoolyards and setting an example to the young people. This is what it means to be a citizen. And they have on this big busy road, they've got security people out there, the traffic cops basically. But the difference is they're out there teaching people about safety. They're not trying to write tickets to fill up the prisons.
Yeah.
For profit.
Right.
They're like, they stopped this old man and said, now you have to buckle your helmet and put the mask down. And then they stopped a bunch of kids. You need to wear your helmet so you're safe. They want to cut down on accidents. It's not they want to fill the prisons. They want to cut down on accidents because they want their people to be safe. So it's such a contrast between our country. And I ride the train. You love trains, but I'm not going to ride the train much anymore.
Well, that's one thing that, our culture has really changed a lot regarding bike helmets, right? When it used to be in movies, you would see movies and kids wouldn't be wearing bike helmets in movies, right? Because it was just a really uncommon thing to do. And it used to be, if you people thought people wearing bike helmets were like weird kind of, and then we just kind of, as a culture, now everyone wears a bike helmet. Right. So
right.
That's one thing.
Yeah, but I'm talking about motorcycles.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, motorcyclists generally always wear helmets, right?
Yeah. You get in an accident and you're gone if you don't have a helmet,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I ride you talk about trains. I ride the train to work every day, but I'm kind of gonna avoid it now because it's just, they have there's so much homelessness and there was so much crime, especially after the pandemic when there's no people riding it except homeless people. So now they've got this whole army of fare enforcers.
Ooh.
And they act like they're the police and they talk down to you, and because they make twice as much money as I do, and you'll get on and an army will get on and they'll check your fare, and then 3 stops later another army will get on, and then I start arguing with them. I'm like, I'm just gonna take a different route because it's like I work in customer service and I don't talk to people like that, and I pay my fare, and yet these people are out there. They feel like they're the police, and they're not doing bad things, but our society is so run down that that's all there is homeless people riding the trains.
Yeah. Well, when I lived in Cleveland, and then even when I lived in New York, right? So they would have this thing where, like in New York City, some of the buses, you can't put your Metro card on the bus, right? You have to put it in this like machine beforehand and get this like little piece of paper. Right. It was always a question of like, if you got on, would they look for your piece of paper or not? Right. And now in New York City, now you can just put your credit card on it, your debit card. So it just beeps. And so you don't have to worry about that. But it used to be you had to have the exact change, or you had to have this little piece of paper. And yeah, you could get arrested on the train because you didn't put your card in before you got on the train and got this little piece of paper. Is that how they do it? Is that what the fare enforcers?
You can buy a paper transfer, or you can have your little scan card. But it's just all, now they're doing a lot more rapid transit where you scan before you get on and there's no way to pay on the bus. But it's just, it's our culture that everyone's so antagonistic because all there is crime.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's got to be obnoxious to have people walking around. Oh, did you pay? Did you pay? That's got to be obnoxious.
It's one thing if they were respectful and it was a culture of, welcome to the train, we're here to keep you safe and have a pleasant ride, but it's all right, everybody, have your fare ready, because they're mostly talking to the homeless people and trying to get them off the train because there's nowhere for homeless people to go.
And do they arrest them? I mean, do they have the arrest power to arrest homeless people if they don't pay?
No, they just kick them off the next.
Oh.
You have to get off the next stop. But if you don't have your fare, technically you could get $180 fine.
Oh, wow.
But it's like you get on and then they get off and then the next crew gets on and they want to check your fare. I'm like, I don't need that in the morning.
Yeah. When you just had your coffee. Yeah.
Well, I didn't drink coffee. I had my chocolate.
It reminds me of like when I was in high school, the study hall teachers would always like just scream and yell, stop talking, stop talking.
Oh.
We'd have to just, we'd start study hall and it was just, it would be like, no one would be talking for the first 5 minutes or so, but then some people would start talking. And then maybe about 15 minutes into the study hall, the woman would just start, stop talking. You kids have got to stop talking. Yeah. And I just, and I would just hate that. I'm just like, what's the deal? I just don't want to, and just, I always hated going to study hall because it was just inevitably hearing a middle-aged woman who doesn't like her life scream and yell at you about how angry she is about you talking, it was just really an unpleasant experience every day, so, and then the other thing was they would always kind of let it get out of hand. It was never like, there must be dead silence, right? It was like, they would allow talking for a little bit until it got to be like, until it was noticeable. And then she would like scream. And I'm always like, well, if you're going to have a no talking rule, just make no talking. Easy. But it was always like, there'd be a little bit of talking and then a little bit, and then she would just blow up, And it was funny. And they were all the same. All the study hall teachers were the same. They were totally different women from different fields of life or whatever. But it's something about that job in particular made them just very, very cranky, very, very cranky. And I lived in a small town. I remember I ran into the woman who was one of the women who was the study hall teacher in my neighborhood one time. And she was just like the most friendly person. I'm thinking, aren't you supposed to be like, stop talking, stop talking? I mean, that's who she was in my mind, so I don't know. So there you go.
Oh, last thing before I go, I sent you an article about China and the Three Gorges Dam.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I don't know what to think of that. It's slowing the earth down.
So it's like a millisecond every year, and so it's tilted, and there's.
I don't know. I immediately thought of the Great Wall can be seen from space. It can't be seen from space. That's a myth, right? It's like, think about it. It's not big enough. You couldn't there's no way you could see it from space. It's not wide enough. But that's just something everyone just says that like it's a fact. Well, did you know the Great Wall of China can be seen from space? No, it can't. Right. So that makes me wonder. And then have you ever heard of the jumping Chinese scare?
No.
Well, that was apparently during like the 50s or whatever. They came up with a theory that if all of China, because they have so many people, if they all jumped at the same time, it would cause an earthquake. And it was like this fear in American media that the Chinese government was going to, one day they were going to tell everyone to jump at the same time and it would cause an earthquake in America and like destroy the country. And they had all these like physicists working about this. Would we actually been able to, and so I don't know, when they said that the Three Gorges Dam, which is the largest hydroelectric power plant in the world, they said it's slowing the earth down. I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of like all the Chinese people are all going to jump and cause an earthquake and the Great Wall can be seen from space. They're always like making China scarier. I don't know. I don't buy it. I'm not.
Yeah,
I want to see the science. I want to see the science.
I know. Well, who funds the science? And I guess I do.
You have to believe it. The science says, Penny, it's the science. Right? Are you not believing science? Oh my God.
In my Toastmasters class, there was a lady was saying, social media is so confusing and my kids, and I don't know what to do, but I'm going to trust my gut and I'm going to trust the science. And I texted into the chat. I was like, well, who funds the science? Everyone's like, oh yeah. So, you don't know. It's crazy. But last thing, I guess, real quick, they'll let someone else go. I was reading in National Geographic some article about these nomads in the Sahel. And I was like, oh, Sahel, Burkina Faso and Mali and Niger. And I didn't read the whole article, but it seems like the focus is these noble savages, right? They're climate change and their way of life, and they're nomadic all across the Sahel. And then there's this women's area and there's no men and the women are in charge. I'm thinking, where's Burkina Faso? Where's the AES, right? Are they trying, like, what are they trying to promote the noble savage and try to get away from the scary dictator man and and just it's now that we have this Khrushchevism in our head, it really opens your eyes to what the media is trying to portray or trying to ignore.
Well, speaking of the Sahara Desert, though, Diane Keaton just died, the actress, right? Have you ever seen her movie Reds?
No.
Okay, well, you should go see it. You should see it. It's a classic. It won Best Director at the Academy of the Awards in 1980, and it's a Hollywood movie about the founding of the Communist Party in America, right? It's about these like two journalists who like go to cover the Russian Revolution, fall in love, and like found the Communist Party. It's kind of an epic movie from the 80s, right? And it's Diane Keaton and Warren Beatty. But in that movie, there's a joke that I love about the Sahara Desert. So I'm going to tell that joke right now.
Okay.
Right. So the joke is, that there's a lumberjack, right? And they're going to hire a lumberjack. It's a lumber company, and they've lined up a bunch of guys, and they're looking who to hire to be our lumberjack. And, he says, does anyone here have any experience? And one guy raises his hand. Yes. He says, I worked in the Sahara Forest. And he says to him, the Sahara Forest? The Sahara Forest? Don't you mean the Sahara Desert? And he said, sure, that's what they call it now. It's awful. It's awful, but it's from the movie Reds. Warren Beatty tells that joke, so I don't know. There you go. That stuck with me when you mentioned the Sahel and all of that. I'm thinking of that joke. But you should go watch Reds. Actually, I've talked about it on these streams many times because I argue that the film, it's an attempt to it's like the American, like Hollywood mainstream mind trying to process the new communist movement of the 70s. And it's also a subtle gesture to like Euro communists, basically like it's okay to be critical of the American system, just don't align with evil Russia, basically is the message of the film, right? And the final scene, I don't want to give it away, but like towards the end, there's a scene that's clearly a dig at the Iranian Revolution, which had just happened. It was 1979, the Iranian Revolution. And there was like a dig at the left for supporting the Iranian Revolution and stuff. And it's interesting. It's kind of an epic film, and you can see it on YouTube. It probably costs like $2.99 or something. So I'd recommend watching Reds. It's an epic. It's a classic Hollywood. It's subtly anti-communist is what I argue. It's not like full on in your face anti-communist, but it's subtly anti-communist. But it portrays the communists in a sympathetic light while kind of demonizing communism or something. That's kind of my take on it. But I'd love for you to watch it. And in light of Diane Keaton's death, maybe it'd be a good time to watch.
I'll go, but I'll leave you with one thought. I just kind of wonder if the whole Russia and China thing is why they're taking down the International Space Station.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're going to take it down and only have commercial.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Wow. Well, we should follow the space program more. I feel like, that's an area. You follow Burkina Faso, you follow Mexico. Maybe you can follow the space stuff more. We should have more content on the space stuff. I think that'd be a good thing to follow. So
yeah, I gave up on Mexico. They're a lost cause.
Well, there you go. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks for all those great rallies you've been organizing. I tweeted out the videos of the great rallies you did. Great stuff, and keep up the great work in Minneapolis. The reading groups, the organizing, you're doing great stuff. And we'll be seeing you in January at our event, right? We'll be
and hopefully Abdi will come too.
Oh, okay. Even better.
He's trying to find someone to record me on Saturday, so that's good.
All right, cool. All right, we'll be in touch. Talk to you soon.
Okay,
yep. All right. So I guess Dan is next in line. There's 3 people in line to speak. So I guess Dan is next. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm on my way to a meeting of a group that I co-founded during the pandemic called Natural Health First.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be like Video Game Players Anonymous or Uber Eats Overspenders Support Group. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Oh, I had maybe 2 nights in my life where I went to all night video game parties. That's it.
Oh, okay. You're ahead of me. I've never done that, but yeah.
My favorite game was Rock Rockstar. Yeah, that was my favorite.
Oh, is that the one, Guitar Hero?
Guitar Hero. Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
That was
Okay.
my favorite game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was okay. I mean, I'm not board games are okay. I like interactive games with a group of people.
Yeah.
I wish we would have done that some in Rockford.
Maybe that's for next year. Maybe that's what we got to put on the agenda. Some interactive games of some kind, right?
Yeah, as long as it's not like Monopoly and what's that other one? About imperialism.
No. Risk. Yeah.
Risk.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
those are definitely out.
But
yeah, we're probably going to discuss. There's a movie that just got released called An Inconvenient Study.
Okay.
About Del Bigtree from the Highwire released it, and they premiered it at the Directors Guild in West Hollywood. It's funny, the Malibu Film Festival was in West Hollywood. That makes sense.
Okay.
And I guess it won the award for best film at the Malibu Film Festival. But it was a study that was done by a well-known doctor that he really didn't want to do it, but he did it, and it wasn't released because it didn't have the results that he was hoping it would have. So but one of the attorneys that I worked with at Children's Self-Defense and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. got a hold of the study, and Del Bigtree did a secret recording, kind of like what O'Keefe used to do, and got the guy to admit, if I release that study, my career's gone,
Wow.
and I'm not ready to retire yet,
Oh,
so basically what
science,
it is,
right? Trust the science. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's what it proved was that really significantly higher vaccines cause problems for kids, significantly higher than if they don't take them. So it kind of like this whole. So that's what's really interesting about what's happening in our world right now is that once information is released, in some cases, decades, perhaps in some ways, centuries of false information and propaganda will be uncovered. And that is dangerous to people that perpetuate those things because they want to stay on top and in control. Everything from big corporations to, shall I say, organized religion. It's time that this stuff be debunked, just like anything that is false and full of lies and has hurt many people and killed many people. Look at Israel. I mean, they have a single digit approval. I mean, I grew up in around a lot of evangelical Christians, and even they're starting to realize, I think there's something wrong with killing children.
Yeah.
And saying everybody's Hamas.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, conservatives in my upbringing are, they were the last to come around to issues for whatever reasons. And in most cases, that's true. I found only one exception, and that was the issues during the pandemic. And I've seen a lot of things in my life, but that kind of surprised me that they were they figured it out a lot faster than the liberals and the left and whatever you call that now.
Right.
And anyway, I didn't make it to the movie, obviously, because we were in downtown LA for what's called the Ciclavia bicycle event. They happen around the city every 3 months or so to encourage people to ride your bikes more.
Okay.
And they close off, streets, for people to ride their bikes, and it becomes kind of like a little mini festival, for a day.
Sure.
And they do it in different parts of the city, so each time. And this particular time, they were back in the downtown LA area, so we went to Little Tokyo, and thousands of people saw our signs that said "Hands off Venezuela." And we had a lot of people that either gave us smiles, thumbs up, and we had some long conversations with people. Like, say, what are you protesting? conversations that might have been 10, 15 minutes even, for
Wow.
people that are, on their bike, right? And just,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a few people that were, obviously were from Venezuela or,
Yeah.
avid Trump supporters that, what do you think about the Venezuelan woman that got the Peace Prize? You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Sure.
But for the most part, the people, if they didn't have time to talk, or if they did talk to us, they'd say, I know what you're talking about. Thank you for doing this. Thank you. You're
Nice.
absolutely right. So yeah, we're going to keep doing those events because that's the kind of people I think that are attracted, to these kinds of events out in the community. So next week we're going to go to obviously the No Kings, which is probably going to be, as it usually is, ending up at City Hall with a lot of Democrats and liberals getting up to speak and spouting their anti-Trump, rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to work on how we're going to present ourselves, what issues we're going to focus on, and and then get out.
Well, I can't wait to see the video. I know you guys in LA are really hardworking and relentless with your activism, and thank you for all that you do. I mean, you're engaging with people, you're out there talking to people, you're doing great work. So thank you very much, Dan.
Well, you're welcome. I hope we'll have a minimum of 5 people. We may have significantly more. I mean, one person that we met said that I may join you.
Okay.
And he said, he asked me, like, do you know who Max Blumenthal is? Of course, I've met Max Blumenthal.
Yeah,
so I know Jimmy Dore. I said, you know him? Oh yeah. So I may join you guys. So that's what we have to do, is just be persistent and talk to as many people as possible. And when you put yourself out there, people will come. It's just, we just got to be patient. You know what I mean? And I'd like to see this kind of thing happen in all the cities around the country, and New York City too, if you can. I understand what happened. Believe me. I know what it's like to be marginalized by so-called peers. It's happened to me in my own way, in my own life, and politically on a lesser, I'm talking, from an entertainment or business perspective. I know exactly what it's like, what you went through politically.
Yeah, but hey, we've got a good crew of people here in town now.
That's good.
I don't want to name names on here, but we've got a good crew of people in town. I don't know if they'll be able to do anything this Saturday here in New York or not, and I also don't want to give it away because we're trying to be strategic here. The idea is to have some disruptions of the No Kings. So but I do know that in at least 3 or 4 cities we've got CPI activities being planned. So I'm really excited, and you're doing great work out there. So I can't wait to see the video. I'll be traveling, but I'll be back next week. And keep up the great work, Dan. Keep it up.
Thank you. When do you go to Russia? In the morning?
That's my plan. Yeah, my flight is tomorrow morning. So I'm just kind of doing a stream here tonight to check out for a week. I've got a whole bunch of videos that'll be premiering, like mega videos here on the channel. And then I'll be back in a week. So there we go. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So we look forward to seeing your videos and hearing your story when you come back as well.
Absolutely.
There's a lot to update, and it's, there's a lot more, than I can talk about, that we sometimes.
There's a lot is in the works, right? I'm hearing a lot of good things, a lot of whispers of good things. So
and check out Morning Messages, everybody. Please.
Yeah, check out. Dan does great morning messages on the CPI YouTube channel. Check them out.
And make some too, please.
And send them. You got a link to send them to. Very good. Very good. Well, thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Caleb.
All right. Next in line, right, is he's not here anymore. It was unanimous, but he's gone. So now Noah is next. Noah, hey.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, what's happening, Noah?
Not a whole lot. I mean, my mind is on Venezuela and the upcoming Saturday thing with No Kings. We got a crew in New England. Patrick in Maine. I'll be meeting up with him and possibly some others. We'll be strategic about not announcing exactly where we're going to do it and stuff like that. But I'm really excited to be able to be doing things. That's what's great about CPI. Not only are we doing things, but we're bringing attention to issues that actually matter. I'm really frustrated with the way that mainstream leftists, I guess you could say, are talking about Venezuela. I saw something recently. Somebody was saying a real litmus test for if you're a real leftist or if you just hate America is is whether or not you're able to say Maduro is a dictator or something. It's like, it used to be that the left, they sucked on like everything except for Latin America. Like Latin America, you could at least get them to be like, oh, Cuba's okay. I like the pink tide countries. Lula's doing some good things. And now it's like not even that. They can't even say that. And it's like, they view the ICE raids and stuff like that, like the Latinos who are being targeted and stuff like that. Well, they're victims, and even if they are, criminals, that's okay because they're just victims and we have to defend them. But like, God forbid, the one person who's actually doing something about the drug problem in Latin America, like the one group of people that are actually trying to help the inflow of migrants, the poverty that causes people to flee to America, we have to hate him because mainstream media has told us to.
Yeah, well, I remember Hugo Chavez. There was a lot of leftist support for him, right? He got a lot of support, and then around like the mid-Obama years, all of a sudden, I think around the time Hugo Chavez died, when Maduro came in, but a little bit before that, all of a sudden, Noam Chomsky stopped supporting Venezuela. And and then all of a sudden, Jacobin and all of them were just against Venezuela all of a sudden. It was weird. When Hugo Chavez came to the UN and called Bush the devil, they all loved him for that, right? And one thing that I've noticed about Venezuela, and people said this was actually very similar to what happened in Nicaragua in the 80s, was that there was always a layer of people who said Venezuela is good and Cuba is not. Cuba is not. North Korea is not. Venezuela is really democratic socialism, right? And it was like they were like praising Venezuela for its weaknesses, right? Another weird story, and if you see those RCA people on the street sometime, ask them about this. Alan Woods, right, who was the leader, they were called International Marxist Tendency. Hugo Chavez had like a Trotskyite phase, where Alan Woods, who was the leader of this British Trotskyite tendency, went down to Venezuela. And Hugo Chavez held up Trotsky's book, the Transitional Program, on state TV, and he was hanging out with Alan Woods. And then they had some kind of falling out, and Alan Woods went back to Britain, and they turned against Venezuela really fast. And it was very weird. It was very, very weird. And at the time, I remember, I was in the Workers' World Party, and we thought we were Trotskyists. We thought we were the one true Trotskyists. And so we were all really excited about all the pro-Trotsky stuff that Hugo Chavez was saying during this like weird, like 6 months to a year period. He was saying all this stuff about Trotsky, and he was hanging out with Alan Woods. And I remember talking with some of the Workers' World Party leaders, and they said, well, actually, that's a really bad sign. They said it's a really, really bad sign that he's talking about Trotsky. And I said, why? And they said, well, that's like a signal that, that he wants to be some kind of leftist that's against, the anti-imperialist countries. And I'm thinking, well, they were right, but it was not a good sign. But the other thing was that Alan Woods, if you went to his website, he was supporting destabilization of Iran at the time. He was supporting the uprisings against the Islamic Republic that were taking place. And, and it was like everything on their website was the opposite of Venezuela's international positions. But for some reason, Alan Woods, who was this big, he's like the successor to Ted Grant. He was this big British trot. He was going down there and having these like long sit down conversations with Hugo Chavez, and Chavez was pushing Trotsky really hard on Venezuelan TV. And then it just ended. And now they don't support Venezuela at all. They've completely turned against Venezuela. It's very, very, very weird. Very odd.
That's odd, but like Trotskyism is sort of like a middle class thing. It's like a middle class intellectual petty bourgeois thing. You almost wonder, it's like he felt it was like good for his career that he could be the leftist that's close to Hugo Chavez, and then when they had a following out, he was like, well, this isn't helping my career anymore, so fuck him,
Yeah, or something like that. And they made like a documentary about Venezuela, and it wasn't very good, and it was all just about one cement factory where like the union bought it, and it was like a worker controlled cement factory. And yeah, and that was, and it was like, I'm like, well, what about all the other stuff they're doing there? Like, that didn't really matter. It was just like, well, there's this one cement factory where the workers own it or something. It was very, very weird, right?
Yeah, why are you tanking so concerned with literacy programs and like healthcare? That's like stupid. I mean, like, aren't you concerned with like whether or not the pencil factory people own the pencils?
Yeah, it was very, very weird. The other thing, though, is that before Hugo Chavez died, he did push really, really hard the Colectivo thing, right? Like that it's like a state within a state, the socialist cities, which, you know, he was pushing it kind of like it was like cooperatives and stuff. But what it's really become is like just those are strongholds of the revolution. That's the base of the militias, the Bolivarian militias and stuff like that. And that's what I saw when I was there. It's not really about like some pure workers' democracy thing. It's more like this is areas where we basically have absolute control. You know what I mean? Like these
Right,
are
it's like a
areas,
besieged council or something.
yeah, like these are areas where we're like, you know, the revolution has like full control over the education, over the economy, over, you know, that's kind of what, you know, you go to Central Caracas, I forget, it's called like the something, it's like the September 23rd neighborhood or something like that, because there was an uprising there at one point, and it's like that area is all collectivos, but that's really, that just means the Communist Party, or there's a couple communist parties. There's the Fatherland for All Party is one of the big communist parties. And I guess Delcy Rodriguez, who was the vice president, I think she's the vice president still, right? Delcy Rodriguez.
I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I think her father started the Fatherland for All Party. And it's funny because in America, if someone started the Fatherland for All Party, you think they're Nazis, right? But, you know, but I guess Fatherland, it's patria, which just means country, right? It's, you know, patriarch, like we interpret it as fatherland, but it's like homeland, or, you know, but it's the Country for All Party is basically what it's called. Right. And it was started, I think, by Delcy Rodriguez's father. And it's a Marxist-Leninist party. It's a communist party. That's just what they're called. And then there's the actual Communist Party of Venezuela, which has split. So now there's two, right? There's one that supports Chavez and one that doesn't, right? Or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there's like a really like hardcore ML thing. It's like he's not pure enough or something like that, so they don't support him. And then there's one that kind of does. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, and then there's the Tupac Amaru party, like, and it's like, and those parties are where you tend to have like the really hardcore supporters of the revolution. Most people that are pro Maduro vote for the PSUV or whatever, the United Socialist Party, but the smaller parties tend to be like the more fanatical supporters who run collectivos and communes and stuff like that, right? That's interesting. And, you know, and it is socially conservative. I mean, they don't have abortion in Venezuela. They don't have gay marriage in Venezuela. You know, but then also, like, when I was in Venezuela in 2015, I went to like an anarchist art collective. That's where I was on the election night, was in this like anarchist art collective of these like skateboarding people, right? That are like anarchist artists that are like funded by Maduro. Right. And it was very middle class, and they were like dressed like punk rockers, and they like had like graffiti art all over the place. And they were like given like some kind of government stipend to like do their skateboarding, punk rock, anarchist art, you know, so they were pro Maduro. So you can be middle class and be pro, you know, there were like regular leftists that supported Maduro too. So, yeah.
That's really interesting because like Nizhny Novgorod is kind of similar, right? It's like it's a stronghold of the United Russia Party, but like, and it's got a lot of like Orthodox churches. It's got the Gorky Museum and stuff like that, and it's quite conservative. But also they really push like graffiti arts and like EDM DJs. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of I guess 21st century socialism, where you have like the middle class elements that are allowed to exist and be creative in a way that supports the country, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's all very interesting. It is. And the other thing that's interesting is like, so the elections in Venezuela, first of all, they are democratic. They are democratic. The USA says they're not democratic because people that are trying to violently overthrow the government don't get to participate. That's what, I mean, that doesn't make an election not democratic. You know what I mean? You know, during the US Civil War, afterwards, if you had been a Confederate, they didn't let you run in the election, right? Like, you know, yeah, Maduro, like the people that are actively trying, that don't recognize him as the president and recognize Juan Guaido and stuff, they can't run. That doesn't mean it's not democratic, right? And the Supreme Court backs them up on this, and it's like they're not in violation of the Constitution, right? You know, so
if they were living in any other country, they'd be in prison. I mean,
yeah,
like they've bent over backwards to accommodate these people. And then they like boycott the elections, and then nobody votes for them because they're not even on the ballot. And then they're like, see, well, if you boycott the elections, then how can you claim that they're rigged?
Right. And, you know, and there's all kinds of stuff like, you know, at one point they were having a food crisis in the country. So they had the food ration card to make sure everyone got the food. And then the opposition was telling people to boycott the election. So they talked about maybe requiring people to just participate in the election to get their food card, but they didn't ultimately do that. They backed away from that. They just discussed it. And so now, like, the narrative in America is like, oh, Maduro, withholds food unless you vote for him. Well, first of all, it was just to participate, and they didn't end up doing it anyway. Like, what are you talking about? And like, it was like civil war kind of conditions where you do have people trying to violently overthrow the government. Like, all the claims that Venezuela is not democratic, it just goes to show you they will say that about anybody. And I really don't get like these people that, like, what do they think? I mean, what do they think is going to happen? That there's going to be a socialist revolution, and then, the ruling class is just going to be like, well, we don't agree with you, but you're totally fair and democratic. We're just not going to call you a dictatorship. It's bizarre. And like, Venezuela is definitely not a dictatorship by any means. It's a very, very open, free country. And they do a lot that, honestly, it's like, again, it's kind of like their weaknesses. They pushed that very, very hard, during the Chavez years. Like, we're not Stalinists. We're being open. This is democratic socialism. And honestly, that hurt them to some degree or other. And then there were always this crowd of people that were like, that's good. And then they all abandoned Venezuela, You know what I'm saying? Like,
And there's a reason that they're the only pink-tide country left. I mean, look what they did to Evo Morales in Bolivia. I mean, what they did to Lula, now Lula's back and he sucks, I mean, it's kind of their weakness that they like are pandering to the West, and then the West doesn't care. I don't really understand why they do it.
Yeah, there's a layer of these like college professor types, right? Who they like Latin America, and I don't know. I always think about the Zapatistas in Mexico and the Kurds, right? And like, the Kurds, first they were like Soviet-aligned communists, but then, the Soviet government in Turkey got better. So then they were Maoists, and then China and Turkey got better relations. So then they became Hojaists, in Albania, and then they became anarchists. And when they became anarchists, I am convinced, I don't think the Kurds were ever really anarchists. I think they just, that was like a gimmick they could do, and they could fly in like professors from Norway and Sweden and France and Germany to be like, look, we advocate pure workers' democracy where the workers elect the bosses, and we have the ideology of Murray Bookchin. And it was just like a gimmick, right? And that's what I think that was. And the same with the Zapatistas. The Zapatistas were Marxist-Leninists or whatever, and then all of a sudden they became anarchists. And then again, I think it was they were flying in and like fundraising from these European like rich people that are like left wing, and it was like, that's what they want to hear. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. And what's his name from Rage Against the Machine? He's like that's the only group he actually supports, is the Zapatistas.
Tom Morello.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tom Morello was interesting. He was kind of around the RCP. Their mass organization was called Refuse and Resist in the 90s. And they had like their logo in their albums because they were doing Mumia work. And they mentioned Mumia Abu-Jamal in a lot of their songs and stuff. Tom Morello. No, Zach De La Rocha is what Unanimous is saying here in the chat. He says it's Zach. Well, actually, why don't I can we make it a three-way here for a minute?
Sure.
All right.
Or a three-way call.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I was just saying, I think what you were talking about is the lead singer of Rage, Zach De La Rocha.
Okay. It's not Tom Morello. It's Zach De La Rocha.
I think both of them have said stuff about the Zapatistas, but yeah.
Okay. And he just jumped out. So there you go. No, I do know that Tom Morello, right? His mother is a white woman who's a communist, and his father is from an African country. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and and he grew up in like a suburban, like small town with his white mom, but his father is from an African country and was like a communist political figure in an African country, and that's a lot of Tom Morello talks about that being his experience of being like, growing up in a small town and, being bullied and stuff like that. He talks a lot about that, Tom Morello. And I saw him perform a few times. He would come to Occupy Wall Street and stuff, he was interesting. Does he do anything anymore? He was the night watchman for a while, right?
He's a phenomenally talented guitarist. I think he just like tours basically at this point. I don't think he releases anything new.
Okay.
And he said good things about Palestine because it was like trendy and liberal. But it's like Roger Waters is what liberals think that, Tom Morello is. Like, Roger Waters is actually brave and like says things that are important. He supports.
No, he made a video. Yeah, he supports Maduro now, and he made a video criticizing the Nobel Prize winning lady recently. I saw, Roger Waters is, he's all in anti-imperialist. I mean, he's great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Roger Waters. But yeah, Tom Morello. Yeah, he would come around to Occupy Wall Street and stuff, and yeah, the Rage Against the Machine, they had the album The Battle of Los Angeles, The Battle for Los Angeles, or something like that. And it was about the LA riots. and there were references to Mumia. And if you looked in like the shell case, the CD, like, label or whatever, it had Rage, what is it called? Refuse and Resist, the Mumia activist group run by the RCP in it. Right. And so that's why, people, and he would like give interviews to the RCP newspaper and stuff for a while in the 90s. So yeah,
I think is really interesting is that like, I guess like petty bourgeois elements, small business owners who are like libertarian or conspiracy oriented, they tend to really like the music that Rage Against the Machine makes, but also they like hate all of the people involved with it because they think that, because they're liberals. It's just really, really odd. You'd think that they would just like, because the music is very clearly like leftist. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's that libidinal, like I want to rebel. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they were just a very popular band. I mean, most people didn't listen to the lyrics at all. And I think the lyrics kind of went over most people's heads, and they are vague. I mean, there would be references to Mumia and, but it was a lot of just kind of like, they would like, it was like, they would like the guitar, like, wah, wah, and then they're just saying stuff and they're just like really angry. I do remember Michael Moore did his like gimmick where he had the mosh pit. Did you ever see that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, he was going around to all the political candidates and asking them to jump into a mosh pit. And he had a Rage Against the Machine song playing. And none of them would do it except for Alan, what's his name? He's the conservative African-American guy who ran against Obama that everyone made fun of.
Herman Cain?
No, before Herman Cain, it was, I can't even remember the guy's name. He did it, right? And so then Bill O'Reilly had him on and he's like, well, why would you jump into a mosh pit? They were playing pro-cop killer music while you did, and it was really stupid. But Alan Keyes jumped into his mosh pit, right? And and so then it was like, Bill O'Reilly said to him, oh, you're jumping into a mosh pit as they're playing pro-cop killer Marxist music or something, so.
That's funny. And there was Speaker of the House, Mitt Romney's running mate.
Paul Ryan, yeah.
Paul Ryan, yeah. He said that, that was his favorite band.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they were like, screw him, basically.
Yeah, it's 90s stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of, yeah. I mean, again, I remember those days. It kind of reminds me of Peter Coffin. I mean, when like leftism there was also a band called Anti-Flag. You ever hear of Anti-Flag?
Yeah, they've got This Machine Kills Fascists. Right?
Yeah. And they were a thing. And it was like they had albums where they would talk about the IMF and, the war on terror. And I don't know. They were like an activist-y band. And there were a lot of people that were interested in it that weren't really leftist. And they were like real leftists. They weren't, now everyone's woke, but they weren't woke. They were like, they would talk about Woody Guthrie and stuff like that. They were trying to do that anarchist, thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So yeah, I remember Anti-Flag and like Bernie Sanders like thanked them from the floor of Congress for registering people to vote during the, and then there was a thing like when Bush was getting reelected, there was a thing called Rock the Vote.
Right.
And it was like a tour. It was like all of these people, Rage Against the Machine and Anti-Flag. And the t-shirt was Vote or Die. And it was like saying there would be a draft if Bush was reelected. Right. It was like Vote or Die. And it was like these concerts that were kind of anti-Bush rallies that they were doing. It was kind of like the left mobilization to get out the vote against Bush, during those years. It was kind of strange. There was also, and then there was this other thing on the right, Because I was in a very conservative era. I was in high school at the time. There was a thing called Acquire the Fire, which was like all these Christian bands were going around touring. And again, it wasn't supposed to be vote for Bush, but it was like, and it was kind of like this rock and roll, like, we're having a revolution for Christian faith kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And it would be like, I don't know. So it was like, yeah, it was both sides had a rock and roll concert tour. I don't know. It was like, there was Rock the Vote was the anti-Bush one and Acquire the Fire was the like evangelical Christian one. And it was weird. And they both had and it was funny because it was the same aesthetic. They both had like the punk rock aesthetic, but one was like Vote or Die was the shirt that was very popular. And then the Acquire the Fire thing, they would have shirts that would be like, it would have like a graveyard and it would say, stop killing my generation, like stand up against abortion or something like that. It's like, stuff like that. Yeah. It was weird. It was just, I don't know. And it was, that was the election that I always tell people it was Mike, I think Pat Buchanan said it was Michael Moore versus Mel Gibson, which is hilarious because both were anti-Israel.
They were, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny. And both candidates were Zionists, but it was like Michael Moore and Mel Gibson, both at that time, were both outspoken being anti-Israel, which was kind of weird. And it goes to show you that's kind of lurking beneath the surface. Yeah. Funky says Vote or Die was a Diddy thing. I didn't know that. You know, Diddy was involved apparently. So there you go. Yeah. Diddy.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting aspect of American culture is that like both sides have to, even when they're playing a role that is pro-establishment, you have to pretend like what you're doing is rebellious.
Right.
Like people will like talk about how like they'll act like opposing China is this like edgy rebellious thing that I'm like fighting the system, man, by critiquing a country that my country already hates. Same with
No.
Russia. The left does it with Russia. Yeah.
When I was at the UN, you know, the high school Amnesty International clubs would pull up in yellow school buses, and all these high school kids would get out. And one time I was watching all these high school kids get out. A lot of them had shirts on that had "Free North Korea" in like, you know, scrawled like graffiti text. "Free North Korea." Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, or I get very frustrated on social media. Somebody will make a very normal video. It's like, I went on a tour of North Korea and like this is my hotel room, and somebody be like, North Korea is paying you, hey kids, the empire is actually pretty cool. That's like they don't realize that like what you're doing to this person is not actually the edgy like rebellious thing. What they're doing by visiting North Korea while it's illegal is actually the edgy thing. I mean, if you care about being edgy, I don't care about being edgy, I care about being right. But if your whole aesthetic is like, I'm going to like, I don't know, libidinally rebel against my parents or whatever, then going to North Korea is something that would actually be that, right?
Well, there you go. There you go. All right. Well, listen, good luck on Saturday with Patrick. I hope it goes well. I'm rooting for you. I can't wait to hear how it goes. Anything else you want to add before I go to the next person?
No. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Great work. Thanks. Noah's always doing great work. All right. Unanimous is next, and then Carter is after him. All right.
Sorry, man. Sorry for dropping off. My mom called and said she needed me to finish dinner. So.
Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah, we made like a healthier
household drama. You're 18, right?
Yeah, I'm 19, but I'm unfortunately a Zoomer.
Yeah, just don't want to get in trouble for having you on here. That's all. That's all. Go ahead. Go ahead. All right. So go ahead.
But yeah, Zach De La Rocha, I think, yeah, like he was the one, like he was the one who promoted the Zapatistas and Noam Chomsky around this time. And it's like an interesting thing because like on TikTok I was scrolling and they were like posting this Susie and the Banshees song about like it's I think it's called Arabian Night. I don't know if you know that one.
Nope.
And it's like them saying like, oh, Muslim women are all like covered, they're veiled.
Okay.
And this was made in like the 80s. And there's a video of Susie Sue performing it, and it's her wearing, guess what on her shirt? The Star of David.
Oh, wow.
So and the person with the TikTok was like, this isn't pro-Israel. I mean, do you need the snake to bite you to know it's a snake?
Well, it's funny. There was a song in the 80s by The Clash, Rock the Casbah. You know that song?
Wasn't it like, yeah, I like that song.
Well, that song, it's interesting. Politically, I'm not quite clear what that song like is really saying, but it became like the anthem of the Gulf War.
Oh, yeah. Like people will put edits of like soldiers doing Gulf War things, which is basically international law violating things
during the Gulf War. And the Clash is kind of like they had an album called Sandinista supporting the Sandinistas, and that they tended to have a leftist, like a mildly leftist edge to a lot of their music. But that song became like very much like as the U.S. military was in Iraq, they all like loved that song, Rock the Casbah. And it's from the same period, right?
I want to say anyone who's a Susie and the Banshees fan, maybe you can tell us, when the year it released. I want to say it released in the 80s, and that was after the whole Iran thing. And
Yeah, well, that's a big shift. The Iranian Revolution really changed the nature of anti-Islamic propaganda in America. Because have you ever seen Elvis made a movie called Harem Scarum, where he goes to Iran, right, and rescues all these beautiful women that are like in the Shah's like harem, right? And the Middle Easterners are all a bunch of sex perverts, basically. They're all a bunch of like horny, sex perverts, basically, is how the Middle Eastern people are all portrayed in that movie, right? It's called Harem Scarum, and it stars Elvis Presley. And then after 1979, all of a sudden, Iranians and Arabs and Muslims are all like super conservative, right? And the stereotype completely flipped. And I think Edward Said talks about that a little bit. But like, yeah,
and that was already prominent in France around the time of the Algerian Revolution. Like you can see old posters that are in French and Arabic, and they have like a woman in a veil, and they're like, "Believe the veil."
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, it was, but for a long time, the stereotype of Middle Easterners was that they were, they were like, they all had 100 wives and they thought about nothing but sex all day long. And, it's like and actually Jabba the Hutt in Star Wars is based on a sultan. He's supposed to be like a caricature of a Middle Eastern sultan. Did you know that?
I never watched Star Wars.
Yeah, well, the Jabba the Hutt, he's an alien or whatever, but it's like his palace is supposed to be like he's like a Middle Eastern sultan. And like the stereotype of Middle Easterners used to be that they were decadent and wildly sexual and all of that. So it's
so like all the weird old shit you heard about Gaddafi being the Arab P. Diddy.
Well, see, that was weird. So I remember they started going after Gaddafi after Obama won the election, right? Gaddafi started getting a lot of attention because the oil prices were so high, and Obama was actually getting closer to Libya. But then they started doing like subtle like digs at him. And one of the claims was like he had these beautiful bodyguards, right? He had these like really, really sexy women who were his bodyguards.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so what? Like, okay, well, I mean, would you rather get big, strong, burly men? Isn't that like feminism? I don't know. Who cares?
I don't know. Having a bunch of
I mean, he had these
it's weird because they like will also say Kim Jong-il had a harem.
I don't know. I mean, maybe he wanted to get his picture in the media. I don't know. I mean, I don't find that, and that's the other thing is that like communist governments love women with guns wherever you go. That is just like a weird thing I've noticed, like about the new left, like women with guns is like a fetish of communist governments. Like the China, there's 2 operas about women with guns, the white-haired girl and the red detachment of women. There's 2 of the like model plays they did during the Cultural Revolution, and in the Soviet Union, they pushed women in the military. And like, yeah, I mean, that's just armed women is like a anti-imperialist thing. And when I went to Iran, they're not scantily clad, but they had a lot of posters of women, in full head.
I think they have there's a parade you can see see of like a female unit, and they're all carrying AKs.
Yeah. So, I just, that is like, so they made this whole thing about Gaddafi had beautiful women bodyguards. It's like, so like, who cares? I just, of all the things to accuse Gaddafi of, apparently though, during the overthrow of Gaddafi, one of the big allegations against him was that he had a Russian girlfriend who was not
Yo, my idiot father, you know what? Forget about it. My dad said
it never got brought up in American media. Right, because American media, no one would care, right? But to the Muslim world, it was like to marry a non-believer or to be, having a relationship with a non-believer is like a huge sin, right? So like,
they was
one of the big like claims against Gaddafi was that he had a non-Muslim girlfriend, he had a Russian girlfriend,
and they tried that once against Putin. They like tried to story of added on him saying he's hiding a child in his dacha. And he has an Olympic baby mama.
Yeah, and
they tried it, and
no one cares. No one, like, whenever they try to bring up Putin's personal life, no one cares. They're just like, yeah, we don't care. It's just
the man got divorced a year before an election year. So,
I wasn't even aware because that's how inconsequential it is. Just no one cares. But anyway, it's good to talk to you. Carter's next in line, so good luck. I hope you had a good dinner. Carter, how's it going? You're muted. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, I had two topics I wanted to talk with you about. I wanted to talk first. You ever hear of JFK's like personal historian buddy that he had, Schlesinger, I think his name was. You ever hear of him? He was a
No.
professor. Anyway, he wrote this book about Andrew Jackson, the president. He
Yes,
wrote a
I know
book that
him.
was connecting Jackson to FDR, and I found that very interesting. He was trying to make like a through line between the Democratic parties of the 1820s to 1930s.
Well,
Just very
Andrew Jackson was infamous for the forcible deportation of Native Americans, and the
yeah,
Supreme
Trail of
Court told him,
Tears.
and the Supreme Court told him not to, and he just told the Supreme Court to, go screw themselves. Basically, he said that if the
Right.
Supreme Court can enforce it, and so he basically forcibly removed all these people, and he was like a settler populist, right? It was like, well, I'm for the small farmers who want to get those Indians out of here, and it was like he was like a kind of a settler populist, is my understanding of Andrew Jackson,
Right.
right or no?
Right.
So,
Well, he was the first president to really win the popular vote as well, because before that, non-land owning whites were not allowed to vote. He was the first president to kind of get the vote of the white working class, you could say, and
Okay.
kind of non kind of Scots Irish. He was like the president of Scott Irish people
okay,
of the
and so-
Americas.
and is that how they linked him to FDR? Was like FDR was a populist also?
Yeah, and also kind of this whole anti-communist, bias and belief about like individualism, and that's kind of the through line through it all. Like we believe in individual rights, and that's kind of the tell that you can see where they're like trying to paint a line through the difference between liberalism and communism.
Okay.
Yeah. And I also wanted to talk to you about I remember you talked about this a few many streams ago. You kind of had this big discussion about the Twilight Zone. I would like to hear more about that if you have any more of that in you, because I watch a few episodes now and again. It's October now, so sometimes I'll be watching it for Halloween, and it's all just it's that individualism, and that's just such a I don't know, such a belief of the new left, and it's so evident in all other kind of media. So maybe you can talk more about that.
Chapter 2 of the Khrushchevism book is called "It's a Cookbook."
Right.
Yeah, and that's become like a recurring theme in CPI. It's a cookbook. It's a cookbook, right? And that's how they want us. It's like this organizational phobia. But yeah, a lot of Twilight Zone episodes are against McCarthyism. But then a lot of them are also just that vague kind of liberal anti-totalitarianism, right?
Well, it kind of ties McCarthyism in with communism, that they're kind of the same.
Right.
What's the name? Like a coin. They're two friends. Two sides of the same coin or whatever.
Exactly. They're both totalitarian, which is a big theme of the new left, right? The other thing is, so there's the famous episode where like the child is the dictator of the town. The kid with the psychic power holds the town hostage. And that's obviously supposed to be something about like Stalin and cult of personality or whatever. And it's like because that's often what they say about dictators. Oh, they're childlike, right? They just,
right.
They've got shallow egos and and all of that. So there's that. And I mean, there's just so many episodes, and most Twilight Zone episodes are some kind of vague, like post-war liberal, anti-totalitarian message.
Right.
That's what I would say. I mean, there's some of them that are not, though. Some of them are kind of, I don't know, like there's the one where like the people with the, he makes the people like the old man is dying or whatever, and he makes these people wear masks, and then they like change their faces, like just dumb, like that. I don't think that's anti-totalitarian. I think it's just like a morality tale, right? It's like they're some of them are just kind of like morality tales, which that used to be most, especially anything that was horror used to be a morality tale, right? Anything that was horror or scary, it had to be somehow teaching you to be good. Like I finally did a couple years ago watch Psycho. I hadn't watched Psycho for years, right? It's from the same time period, and like the woman who gets murdered at the beginning of the movie, right? She stole a bunch of money or something, right? So it's like that's why it's okay for her to be brutally murdered in the shower. If she had just been an innocent woman, it would have been like that wouldn't have been okay. Right? She had to be a thief or something to get brutally murdered in the shower. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I do find it interesting. It kind of all the media from the 50s and the 60s. I always like looking at it. Well, not really the late 60s, because then you go into kind of new left territory, which I can't really even get into. I can't get into. What was your favorite play? I forget.
Marat Sade. Yeah, you can't get into that.
No, your favorite
Hair.
theater.
Hair.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't
No,
get
I can't
whenever
now. I actually refuse to listen to it now. I think it's actually
Right.
particularly it's really, really a dark, pessimistic piece, but it's just kind of wrapped in this like vague hippie happiness, but it's a really anti-human and dark piece. It's basically against conformity, right? I mean, the whole premise of the play is the main character is this young hippie who gets a draft notice, right? And he's supposed to go fight in Vietnam. And he spends the whole play like saying he's not going to fight in Vietnam. And he, you know, and at the end of the first act, he's like, well, actually, like he burns his draft card, but then it wasn't his draft card. And he actually like he is going to go fight in Vietnam. And so then the second act of the play is like his night before he goes to Vietnam. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, this would never be allowed now. It's probably why you're not seeing performances of it now in the age of Me Too. But like the girl in the play, like all his friends pressure her to have sex with him because he's going to go away, like, if she doesn't want to, and they're all like, oh, you have to have sex with him because he's going to go fight in Vietnam. And so then he has sex with her, and then he has an acid trip that's like really dark and pessimistic, and then he goes and fights in Vietnam, and then he comes back dead, and the play is like his funeral pyre. It's really dark, and it's just like, you know, and it's wrapped up in all this kind of, you know, good morning starshine, let the sun shine in.
Yeah.
It's really, really a dark play. And the point
You
is,
ever
like,
see
yeah.
You ever see Platoon?
Platoon? I haven't. No, is it
Platoon,
similar?
yeah.
Is it similar?
No, it's Oliver Stone directed it, so it's a lot more kind of. He's still a little bit new lefty because he is a boomer, but he always kind of puts an anti-imperialist kind of angle onto it. Charlie Sheen does a great job. You should really watch it. You'd like it. It's very anti-Vietnam.
Yeah, well, Hair,
like
I really liked it as a teenager because I didn't know about any of that stuff. You know, it was like the new left, you know, it was just like kind of my gateway drug, so to speak. But I look back on it now and I can't even listen to any of the music or anything anymore. It's too dark. It's too, you know, and like, you know, Age of Aquarius, I mean, the Aquarian conspiracy and all that stuff. And it really pushes hallucinogens very hard. I mean, the whole play is practically use drugs. I mean, that's just, you know, I mean, like there's one, like, I think the third song in the play is just a list of drugs. Is just like the lyric is just a list of drugs. Right.
That's disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like that. And I don't know. It's just like, there's an element of like, and that was part of the culture has changed so much. But like, I guess back then, you know, there's one song that's just a list of like dirty words. Right. And it's like a lot of that beatnik poetry thing where you just list things rather than rhyming or whatever. But it's like, and then the big thing about the Hair play was that they were naked. Right. The climax of the play, they were naked. Right. At the end of the first act, they're naked. Right. So, and that was like, oh my God, naked people. And it was like an element of just that whole like hippies, like we're pushing societal norms. Right. That was just a big part of what all of it was about. But yeah, no, I can't. When I was a teenager, I was all about that. And I was like mildly obsessed with that play. But honestly, I look back on it. I just really, it's kind of like, just staying.
Did you ever watch? Did you ever go to a theater performance of it?
I never did. No, I read the script actually. The movie is awful, and I remember watching the movie and being like really disappointed by the movie. The movie has nothing to do with the play, and it's actually just like it's just, I don't know, just a bunch of people wanted to make a hippie movie or something. But the play itself is very poetic. Like it's very poetically written. A lot of it rhymes and stuff, but it's like very, very, very dark. And it was originally performed at a disco. I guess there was a disco called the Cheetah, right? And they would do like on Sundays or whatever, they would one day a week, they would have a play there, and then Broadway ended up picking it up. And there's a bunch of songs from it that are very famous. Age of Aquarius, Hair, Good Morning Starshine. There's a bunch of the songs of it became like hit rock songs. It was quite popular, and it has no set, right? It like has no set, and it's just, and yeah, it's just a bunch of hippies kind of hanging out on stage and using drugs. And yeah, I don't know. It's certainly interesting, and it was certainly a counterculture piece. It's kind of like, like every, it's maybe it was a little more genuine back then. I don't know. I wasn't alive, but it seems like every time they make like a scene, right, like punk or goth, they have to make a bunch of like movies or plays or music to a go. You know what I'm saying? It was a scene piece. You could call it a scene.
What year was it released?
1968, of course.
Oh, damn. I thought it was like a 70s retro. No, it was from 68.
No.
Whoa, that's kind of cool then, that it was like a period from the period.
And it was the first rock and roll musical on Broadway, which was a big deal. Musicals were not rock and roll. And Jesus Christ Superstar, it was, I forget, what's his name? Andrew Lloyd Webber. He said, I want to do a musical that's a combination of Jesus, of the Christian Gospels, and Hair. So, but there had never been a Broadway musical with rock music before, so it was kind of a big deal at the time. But yeah, it was particularly, it's just a weird, it's just a piece from a different era, I guess. So, but yeah, but back to the Twilight Zone. What other Twilight Zone episodes stand out?
You ever see the one where it's like this man gets sentenced to death because he's like religious? It's very anti-communist, like directly. But that one I was obedience something. I forget the title.
Obsolete. They changed
Obsolete Man.
Obsolete,
yes.
Right? And it's like when he's sentenced to death for being religious or whatever, they say to him like, the government has declared you to be obsolete, and then there's all these guys going, obsolete.
Right. You're getting it.
Well, it isn't like capitalism. Like, we can't use you anymore. You're not profitable anymore. Like, I don't like.
Well, they don't. They don't care about anything. They just care about, well, you can't something Khrushchev. Yeah, and it's so funny. Right. They're viewing Khrushchev as such kind of a Stalinist. Like, they make you like respect Khrushchev. Like, oh my God, this guy was a hardcore. In reality, he was like the most liberal possible Soviet leader they could have gotten. He was like totally pro-West, was willing to negotiate with Cuba, with JFK. He was like their best friend, and they treat him like he's at least appreciate it. You don't know what the hell you could have gotten, and you got the best deal ever, and they still bitch about it. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, when I wrote the book, I mean, I was obviously writing the book to make more of a point, but I had to do a lot of research on Khrushchev. The whole thing is weird. So there was a best-selling book in like 1970, Khrushchev Remembers, and it's supposed to be his autobiography. Except that here's the crazy thing. It's never proven that he actually wrote it.
That's awesome.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they published it and they're like, oh, this is Khrushchev's autobiography. Malcolm
X, where it's the
in this
fake
case,
autobiography.
In this case, Khrushchev actually disavowed it and said, I did not write this, right? But people said it was a mild denunciation. He was thinking about writing one, and the KGB apparently confiscated some tapes from somebody at some point, like his relatives were like having him talking to a tape recorder, and the KGB confiscated them, and that was like, at one point. And then it is still to this day not known where the manuscript for that book came from. So it may have something to do with what was on some tapes at one point, but whatever got published must have somehow gone from Khrushchev's to the KGB to American intelligence to the publishing house. So we have like what's written in there. You have no idea if any of it has any basis in fact. And then when it was published, Khrushchev himself, who was like in house arrest, actually was forced to like go on Soviet TV and say, I did not write this. This is not what I wrote. I do not recognize these words or something. And people said it was a mild denunciation, but I mean, that could just be the publisher saying, well, he didn't denounce it loud enough. It could still be real. But that book, which was a bestseller, no one knows if it's real or not. Isn't that crazy?
Right. Is it good? Did you read it?
I mean, I read some of it. It's really anti-Stalin. It's got a whole bunch of stuff about people eating their children and, a lot of like over-the-top anti-Stalin stuff. But then on Hungary, it seems to give the Soviet line on the Hungarian stuff. So that makes it, believable. And I mean, he was anti-Stalin. So I don't know. I don't really know. And then there's a lot of like, if I remember correctly, there's like his words. And then there's like a lot of like whoever the editor was, like writing big editorials ahead of it that say a whole bunch of anti-Soviet stuff. So I don't know. The whole thing is weird. I mean, it could have been just a psyop to mess with the USSR. A lot of that stuff was right. The book, the novel that was like a bestseller in the United States, but it was really aimed at the Soviet Union. Dr. Zhivago, right? That was a CIA.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it was a best-selling novel. It's this romantic novel about a man who has like two wives or whatever, and he's like, the revolution divides him from his one wife or something.
Right.
But apparently the CIA paid for that, and it was a novel that had been banned in the USSR, and the CIA like took it and they like rewrote sections of it or whatever, and they released it in America as this book that's been banned in the Soviet Union. And it was like, they wanted like copies of it to get smuggled into the Soviet Union for like psychological purposes. That's what the whole thing was. It's bizarre, And it just goes to show you so much of what we see, if something is like promoted by the mainstream, it's not natural. It's very, very rarely natural. It's highly vetted. Like these Twilight Zone episodes, you can be sure that they were wrangling over the political message of them. Yeah, it was a really big deal. And like, the big anti-McCarthyism episode, Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I was in school. We read that. That was in our reading book in 3rd grade.
Caleb, I read the same thing in like 2016, 10 years later.
Yeah, that is like verbatim. It's an anti-McCarthyism script, but it's like that anti-totalitarianism and that's like that. I mean, and there's a reason we're reading that. It's like propaganda. One thing that Noah, who was on before, often talks about is one of the worst things about American education is the highly political topics you don't talk about in history class. You talk about in English class.
Right.
Have you ever noticed that? Right? We don't talk about the history of communism in social studies because you'd have to talk about actual facts. Instead, you read a novel about barnyard animals written by George Orwell. And so we learn about the history of communism from, you know what I'm saying? You don't learn about the Holocaust from, high school history class. You learn about it in English class by reading Zionist Elie Wiesel's memoirs that are full of like Zionist propaganda, right? And that, like, if you read, I read in English class, we read Night by Elie Wiesel, right? If you read that book, you would have no idea that the majority of Jews at the time were socialists and communists, right?
Right.
Elie Wiesel was like a crazy, like ultra-Orthodox, like, what do you call it? Hasidic guy from Romania, right? So his memoir has no politics in it other than Jews are so oppressed, we need our own state. There is absolutely no political understanding of anything, whereas anyone who was like a German Jew would be telling you all about the communists and the political atmosphere and, and all. There's nothing.
Was that a divide? Were German Jewish people more left wing than the average German?
Well, that was the Nazis really played up the Jewish communist thing, right? That was a central belief of the Nazis, was that communism was a Jewish conspiracy against the German nation. That was a really, really big thing. And it's also been pointed out that that Zionism as a political movement was British mainly.
Yeah.
It was British, right? And that German, French, Italian Jews tended to be leftists, Marxists, social democrats, or whatever. Zionism was very British, and so it was like with all the Jews that died in the Holocaust, it was like that's how Zionism got a majority among Jews, is because the non-Zionist Jews were killed off in large numbers. That's one aspect of that, and that I mean the politics again. You read Elie Wiesel's Night. It's a compelling book. It's not bad, but it's just about man's inhumanity to man, right? That's just what it's about, right? It's just people are mean to each other, And he was like, I think he's from Romania, if I'm not mistaken. And he describes basically he was living in the middle of nowhere. He was living in like some really rural, like isolated village, and he was trying to be a Kabbalah. He was studying Kabbalah. Right. So he was not part of the politics that led to the Holocaust at all. He was just, this guy. I mean, it would be the equivalent of like an Amish person's account of something in American politics. He was like a rural person they kind of grabbed, and then he got wrapped up in it, obviously. But
okay, I have one more topic to ask you about. Can you talk about 2004 election? Because I'm actually writing a paper on that right now. So I'm just diving straight in. I'm just reading all the source material. I'm watching 60 Minutes. I watched a 60 Minutes yesterday with John Kerry and John Edwards. Quite a show. No, I'm just wondering, what do you say about? I've heard you speak on this a little bit. Do you think that Ohio, just yes or no? Don't. I'm sorry that I have to do this, but yes or no, Caleb? Do you think the 2004 Ohio results were falsified? Do you think they were true? Do you think they were rigged? Yes or no, if you had to.
I don't think votes were changed. Votes were not changed. Okay, what I think.
But people weren't allowed to vote. They were forced in long lines.
Yeah, that's what happened.
That's every election, no?
Yeah, but they did it like the Secretary of State in Ohio was Kenneth Blackwell, who was a Republican, and he did that on purpose. And like Oberlin didn't have voting machines. Cleveland didn't have voting machines, and my little town that was Republican had way too many voting machines, more voting machines than could ever want. Like there was foul play in that sense, but I don't think any votes were changed.
Right.
But like at Oberlin, which is a liberal stronghold, that like people were like waiting 8 hours to vote. The election results were already declared, and there were all these Oberlin college kids who hadn't voted yet, and because there were 2 voting machines or something. Like that's how the foul play went down, I think. But Bush still won the popular vote, though. I mean, and it was the gay marriage initiatives right? That was really what it was, right? I mean, it was the gay marriage. People didn't want gay marriage, right? And that was they put it on the ballot, and a lot of people who would not have voted, who were religious, voted against gay marriage.
Well, it was also still when it was still in kind of the Clinton era, so a lot of conservative voters would have voted Kerry. I mean, it wasn't the trend lines were still kind of pointing where rural voters were still a little more Democratic. So people that might consider voting Democrat, but because of gay marriage will vote Republican.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
what
like,
they did was in all the key states, there was a referendum on the ballot to ban
Right.
gay marriage in the state, right? And so I remember there were a lot of conservatives I knew, even in my little town, who said they weren't sure about the war, they weren't sure about Bush, but they had
Right.
to go vote because they were against gay marriage. And so I guess, yeah, I'll vote for Bush, but I don't know. But, the gay marriage, I have to vote on that, right?
Right.
And a lot of black people, too, the black vote, right? was
and
largely-
Latinos. I mean, Bush won
Yeah.
Latinos.
Yeah, and I mean, largely it was still the minorities tended to vote for Kerry, but there was still, the minorities were opposed to gay marriage at that point, right?
Right.
That was a big thing. The other thing was that, so like there was the whole like Swift boat ads. Do you remember that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm reading a bunch about that. Yep.
Right. So I guess so. There was a film called Stolen Honor about John Kerry.
Right.
So interesting fact, just because you watch these streams and our like little niche interests. There's a biography of Reverend Sun Myung Moon called The Inquisitor. It's about his like persecution. The
Right.
guy who wrote it is also the guy who made the Stolen Honor film.
Isn't the guy who made it one of the leaders of it? It was Trump's campaign manager.
No, it's this guy Carlton Sherwood, right?
Oh, who the hell am I thinking of? I'm thinking of somebody. I don't know who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, Carlton Sherwood. I don't know much about him, but he's a Washington Times guy. He wrote a
Right.
biography of Reverend Sun Myung Moon, and he also that was sympathetic, and he also did the Stolen Honor thing against Bush, which is interesting. And I don't know what the connection is there. I mean, I know the Unification Church tends to lean Republican, so maybe that's all there is to it, or maybe that's maybe it's just the guy's a writer, and those are two niche
Right.
interests he has, or something. I don't know. That's interesting.
And do you remember? When they tried to claim that Bush like falsified his military documents? I remember
Yeah.
that story, and there was like a guy got fired, right? Because
Well, the
he,
whole thing was so Bush dodged the draft, right? Bush,
Right.
served in
National Guard.
Yeah, and it was like that. He moved up in the line or something, right? Like he got special treatment because his father was who he was, right? And so they did a news story on that, and the news story was true, but like there was some paper, like they dug into the story like crazy, and they found like one document that wasn't real, and so then it became, see, the whole story's false, and that's
Right.
the Fox News. It was like, oh, see, they made up the whole story. It's like, no, the story was actually true. It's just there was one
Right.
aspect of it, and that was the thing that Fox News used to do, is like something would happen like scandalous that Bush would do, and they would find like one little fact that was off, and then they would just talk about that to like say the story wasn't true, and then all the Fox News fans would say, oh, I heard the story wasn't true.
Oh,
like-
that reminds me of something. I was at the thrift store the other day, and I was looking at their vintage political books. You ever do that? You find
Okay.
books from the 2000s. Anyway, I found one from like I think 2006, and it's like 100 of the worst people in America, and it was like John Kerry, John Edwards, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and all these like 2000s guys. And I was so taken aback by one of the figures. I was like, "What the hell?" He's considered like a liberal in 2000 America. It was Michael Jackson. I know that he like associated himself kind of with like black liberalism after the pedophile allegations and the second pedophile allegations. I think he leaned into like kind of Jesse Jackson and that kind of crowd as like support. I remember reading about that, but it's just so crazy that he was like considered a kind of a
well,
liberal figure.
He had a song called "They Don't Really Care About Us," which is
Right.
like a black nationalist kind of song, right? Which is it's like if Martin Luther was here, he wouldn't let it be. If Malcolm was here, he wouldn't let it be. And then also, like he did a concert tour that was all about global warming,
Right.
and it's like before the concert, he like gets his whole staff out and like prays to the earth, and it's like, Mother Earth, like, this is your last chance, Mother Earth, like or something like that,
Right.
And he like prays to Mother Earth. I remember seeing that. Yeah, so yeah, he did get kind of woke. And then the other thing was, I was around the Workers' World Party. They defended him on the grounds that the child molesting allegations were just transphobic, right? Which was, they were like, no one talked about that back then. They were like
Right.
way ahead of their times, but they had free Michael Jackson rallies and shit, like
That's awesome. That's crazy.
I know it. Isn't it crazy? Isn't
Kind
that
of
wild?
embarrassing, but awesome.
Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed by that too, but yeah, there you go.
Weren't
All
they
right, well,
defending OJ too?
They did, and they lost people over it. That was
right.
That one made a little more sense because there was so much widespread support for OJ in the black community, right?
Right, yeah.
And they weren't exactly clear. Sam Marcy said that they didn't. It wasn't about OJ being guilty or innocent. It was that they were demonizing a black man for marrying a white woman, right? And that it was like trying to whip up anti-black hysteria to build a police state.
Yeah, but OJ killed a Jewish guy. OJ slaughtered. Yeah, right. What the hell?
But then there were articles in Workers' World newspaper like saying the evidence wasn't there, saying he was innocent.
Right.
The other thing is that Sam Marcy, in the final years of his life, I'm sure there's probably, if anyone sees this from that organization, they're like seething right now. They don't want to hear this. Sam Marcy got on a kick of like, I am the most anti-racist Jewish man who ever existed, and he wrote articles like when Minister Farrakhan, was saying anti-Semitic things or being accused of being anti-Semitic, he wrote like big centerfolds, why Jews must support Minister Farrakhan. And there was a group of Kenyans, Kenyan like anti-British fighters who went to Nazi Germany, and like Workers' World ran big pictures of Hitler like shaking hands with these Kenyan freedom fighters, and it was like, well, why Jews should support Kenyans' right to meet with Hitler to fight the British Empire. And it was a little weird. It was like it was a majority Jewish organization, like, and they were very pro-black nationalist, and they had like gotten into fistfights with the JDL or something, and the Crown Heights riots were happening in the early 90s and stuff. And so in that atmosphere, Sam Marcy got into this weird mode of like, we are going to be the most pro-black organization ever, and I'm going to show everyone that I may be Jewish, but I am like super, super pro-black. You know? And that's, I mean, to be honest, I mean, that's respectable in a way. I can respect that.
Yeah, I can respect that too. Yeah.
Yeah. It just was a little weird. People pointed out it was a little like, it was almost like they had something to prove. Their articles tended to be really, really short. But then the centerfold is like, a whole why Jews must support Farrakhan, and it was just like, why, like they were trying to prove something, but I guess it was the age of Al Sharpton. It was the age of the Crown Heights riots, and they were trying to make a point. Also, they're really into the Tawana Brawley thing. A lot of them still defend Tawana Brawley. Right.
I'm sorry. Who is that? My history's messed up. Who is that?
It's a woman, an African-American teenager who accused like.
Oh yeah, I remember that. And then it was a lie, right? It was a lie.
Matt Taibbi's father is the guy who supposedly revealed it was a lie.
Right.
And so and Matt Taibbi does a lot of good work, and nowadays, and the whole thing is just odd. I don't quite know what to make of it, but Al Sharpton supported her originally, and then like kind of apologized for it. And they always bring that up against Al Sharpton, right?
Yeah, I remember watching that in the 2004 Democratic debates. Yes.
Yeah, they always bring that up. And it's like, it's a like a mark on Al Sharpton's record. So it's like largely considered to be a case that was wrong. But, Workers' World, every so often there would be like a sentence in an article, and then Tawana Brawley, blah, blah. And it's like, they support Tawana Brawley. I don't know enough about it. It's a very strange thing. But then when I found out Matt Taibbi's dad was the guy who I was even more perplexed, because Matt Taibbi does a lot of good stuff. But then I guess he's pro-Israel now. He's fighting with people or something, or I don't know. The left is attacking him for not being pro-Palestine. Like, he doesn't talk on it. He doesn't even support Israel. He just doesn't speak on it, which is suspicious, I'll admit. But I guess he's not supporting Israel. That's better than that. Well, there you go. All right. Well, Phil has been waiting so patiently, so I better get him a chance. But you can get me talking, Carter. You're a good history buff. Thank you.
I'll see ya. Have a good one.
Yep. Oh, sorry. Phil.
What's up, my man? How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being so patient. You were waiting, and Gabby's right behind you. So thank you for being so patient. Yeah. How you been?
No problem. For you, anything.
Oh, you flatter me. You flatter me, Phil. But yeah, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, first off, how's President Trump's favorite reporter doing?
Oh, well, there you go. Right. Yeah. That's a great clip, right? Who's my favorite reporter? You. All right. I should put on the back of my next book, my favorite reporter, President Donald Trump, right? That'll be the blurb on the back of my next book.
Well, I wanted to talk about tonight. Did you happen to see the way the war criminal from Israel flattered President Trump today?
No.
Yeah, President Trump spoke in front of the Knesset today.
Okay.
And not the war criminal, I should say,
Mhm.
was, basically President Trump is the greatest friend that Israel has ever had.
Well, smart. That's smart. If you want Trump to like you, if you want Trump to do what you said, say that, right? I mean, that's that's interesting. And the hostages, have they come home yet? They're coming home, right?
All 20 have been released.
Okay.
They have not released all of the deceased ones yet. Hamas is saying that it's going to take a little bit of time for them to find all of the graves, that they put them in. I'm assuming because they didn't mark them, out of disrespect, or maybe, they just didn't have the time because they were under, constant bombardment, but, I just wanted to say, the Prime Minister of Israel is supposed to be back in court for his corruption scandal. I believe it's going to be on Wednesday. I think, he was buttering up Trump because, this is my own personal opinion. I think he's trying to make some type of asylum plea, to President Trump, that if he's convicted, of his corruption scandal, that he's going to seek asylum in the U.S.
Oh, that would make sense. And Trump would give it to him for sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my own personal opinion. The other thing I wanted to say is, do you have any further suggestions for Saturday's Day of Action?
Well, one thing that I've been suggesting is, and I don't want to give away any information, right? When I tell the world what's being planned, I'm not even going to be in the country, so don't blame me for whatever happens. But and to be clear, we are calling on people to not do anything illegal, right? Just make a scene. That's all, right? We're not, don't get arrested, don't get in a fight, don't just follow the law, but make a scene. But one thing we have suggested is, rather than they're doing these rallies in every little town ever, right? There's hundreds of them. There's like 300 rallies tomorrow. So rather than going and doing it in like the big city, right? Maybe find a smaller town to do it in, because you can make a bigger scene there.
Right.
That's my advice. Because I feel like if you go to like, a major city, right? LA, San Francisco, New York City, there's going to be, the rally's going to be in Central Park, right? In Harlem and New York City, I believe, right? There's going to be a lot more people. There's going to be a lot more police, and it's going to be a lot harder to make a scene but if you go to like a little suburb or someplace like that and you do it, you'll create a much bigger ruckus. So that's one thing I'm kind of urging people to think about. But the other thing is, I'm saying just do it, right? Just do it. It doesn't take much. Just, just find their local No Kings rally and go there and say, hands off Venezuela, and get someone to film you and interrupt and, shout hands off Venezuela and yell about Venezuela and make them have to shut you up. I think that's necessary. I think that's what's necessary. So, people have made signs. The LA group already have their signs made, and they were out in the streets today and the day before, talking about hands off Venezuela already, and they're really pumped to do it. And there's other people in other cities, and different things are being planned. So we'll see what comes out of it. I wish I was here to lead it. I guess we could figure out an intervention in New York, but I'm going to be out of the country. So. Yeah, that's it. I don't know if anything is being planned in New York City. I was talking with Irving, and I don't think we're going to be able to do anything in New York, but you never know, right? I mean, you never know. But I know, Noah was on here talking about, he and Patrick are going to do something, but not saying where, but they're going to do something. And there's other people in other parts of the country that are going to do something. I know for a fact. So yeah, there will be pro Venezuela statements. Somebody in the chat I saw earlier, I don't know if you saw in the chat, said they super chatted Jimmy Dore about this tonight.
Oh,
yeah. Like I'm telling you, this is taking off like wildfire. So I texted, all of my contacts about this, and I got some very positive replies from a lot of, from people that don't often reply to me, internet personalities and stuff. So, and somebody sent $5 in to Jimmy Dore's chat tonight and said, the Center for Political Innovation is calling on people to interrupt the No Kings rallies. And Steph, Jimmy Dore's wife and partner, she said, that's a great idea. And we're all for that. So, yeah.
Great.
So, I mean, this is already catching on, right? There's people around the country who, have reached out to me and said, I want to do this. And I've connected them with CPI people in their area. And I think we're going to see some decent disruptions. I really do. I think that there will be.
I wonder if they're doing anything over in New Jersey, at one of the smaller towns in Jersey.
Well, I don't want to, I don't want to throw all my cards out on the internet, right? I don't want people to know what is being planned, because I don't want them to wreck it, right? I want it to be a surprise when it happens. But
right.
I do know that I have an inkling about various things that are going to happen in various parts of the country, and it's good, and it's completely legal, and it's peaceful, and it's just hands off Venezuela, right? And instead of having a silly red team versus blue team rally, have a don't bomb Venezuela rally and get that message there. I think that's
right.
A great way to do it. So yeah, I'm down.
And have you heard anything about the negotiations on the shutdown?
I have not. I've heard, I saw the Saturday Night Live sketch where they had Amy Poehler playing what's her name, playing Pam Bondi, and Tina Fey playing Kirsty Noem. And I was unimpressed. And then I've been following the Korea stuff, and that's very exciting. I mean, the rumor is that, that Kim Jong-un. So the rumor is that Trump is headed to South, when that's confirmed, Trump's headed to South Korea, right?
Right.
But the rumor is that after his meeting in South Korea, he's going to go up to North Korea.
Oh.
Right? That's the rumor.
Holy
Not
mackerel.
confirmed. Not confirmed, but that there's going to be another Korea meeting, that he's going to go from South Korea to North Korea, right?
Well, maybe that's because I heard that Trump is thinking about skipping the economic forum, that he was supposed to go to, and just going to meet with the South Korean president. And then, the media was saying, that he might just fly back to the US, but there's all kinds of speculation, on the internet, on, mainstream media channels, there's all kinds of speculation, that he may, skip that economic forum, and just, do other things,
Right. Well, I guess he doesn't want to meet with Xi, right? So I guess the big thing was that at APEC, Xi is going to be there. He's going to be there. And they were going to meet with Xi, but now he's mad at Xi, right? So he's not going to meet with Xi.
So
right?
you haven't heard about the situation with Xi?
I mean, I've seen the rumors, but it's not confirmed, right? About,
okay.
It's not confirmed. That's going around. I've seen that a couple different places that people are saying that may have happened, but I haven't seen much on it. But Gabby has been patiently waiting, so I should probably go on. But Phil, do you want to add anything else before you go?
Just, thank you for being patient with me,
Sure.
And I just want to let you know I will be praying for you to have a safe trip there and a safe trip home.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you. And I'll be praying for you while I'm on the road.
Thank you.
And yeah, trips can be, you have a lot of downtime, a lot of time to think and work on stuff. And then you also get to see people you wouldn't normally see. And so I'm excited about it. And, but I'm looking forward to being back from my trip. So, all
well,
right.
have a good time,
Yeah.
otherwise.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil. Gabby, thank you for being so patient.
It's okay. Yeah. I know you're busy with the calls.
Hey, I'm just having a great time. This is a great thing to do the night before I head out of town. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just wanted to straight up talk to you about, because I was watching the Kim Iverson show,
Okay.
and she was talking about some coup attempt that happened in 2020 in Venezuela, which was Operation Gideon or something like that. But
Okay,
it
I
was in
reported on it at the
2020.
time. I remember. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, and she interviewed a guy that like was, I don't know if he was CIA or one of the Green Berets, and they're or he's in like facing a lot of like, I don't know, lawsuits, a lot of things that's been going on. And he was okay, but he was just like a CIA, FBI type dude. And he's like, oh, we need to still save Venezuela. Like he has good points, but then he still like has that mentality of bringing democracy to Venezuela. Like the interview was kind of like that.
Ooh.
But I mean, I didn't know about that until I saw that, and I was at work listening to him. Like, well, that's crazy, you know. And
Yeah,
I'm
well,
surprised.
Kim Iverson, she has a wide variety of guests. You know, she'll have me
Right.
on there. She'll have people that would support Venezuela, and it sounds like she had an anti-Venezuelan guy on there.
Yeah, yeah, it was good, but like, that was I was just like thinking about the whole protest, King No Kings protest. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why aren't we talking about that? It's Latino people, South America, and we have people here that are Latino, but they're like, being wild and, burning the American flag. And it's like, I'm glad that we're going to be there because we're giving them kind of awareness to the lost people who are in the left groups, that are hopefully like, young adults, I'm thinking, and things like that. And I'm kind of glad that like I kind of had so many years to kind of study what we do and like the whole synthetic left people. I was watching this guy on Instagram, and I know it's kind of random, but he's been exposing the protesters from the protest cage for Palestine, and he does research on them, and they're like, oh, these people get paid, and he mentioned George Soros or whatever, but he's pro-Zionist, so I kind of,
Yeah.
but it was kind of interesting because he interviews people, and then they disrupt him, and they're disrespectful, and like these people get paid to do all that nonsense to
Well, it's
yeah.
like it's frustrating for me because I obviously have some bad blood with the left, and with these groups, and stuff. But like I watched this woman, I can't remember her name, it's like Blanco or and she made a whole thing like I infiltrated Antifa, blah 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 blah. And I watch her content, she has no fucking clue what she's talking about. Right?
Yeah.
Like I have lived this. I know what these groups are like, and she just
Right.
makes scare porn for conservatives. And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah, it
oh,
was
all
like
these
that.
people are scary communists, and they're gonna, and it's like, and she has a YouTube channel where like it's like she has Socialism Saturday, and she just shows videos from PSL's YouTube channel. It's like, see, I have this special inside information. No, you don't. I went in her chat one time and I said what everybody knows, you can Google it, which is that Roy Singham, the billionaire, funds PSL. And she started like, she didn't just ignore me. She started yelling, oh, you can't put conspiracy theories in my chat. I'm going to block you. And she's just like having a meltdown. And I'm like, girl, this is on Fox News. Like, this is not, but it was like, she thinks she's some expert. Like, oh, she knows these communist groups. No, she does not. She's just scare porning conservatives. And it's like, that seems to be like what you're describing is it's like, so in addition to the communist groups that are lame and woke and all of that, you then have like this layer of like right-wing influencer people who it's like Soros is pro-Israel. Soros is a Zionist, right? But it's like, it's like they're all working for George Soros because they're working for China because George Soros is a communist.
Yeah. They mentioned China.
Yeah.
They mentioned China. I'm like, wait, what does China have to do with this?
Yeah, George Soros said Xi Jinping was the greatest threat to the. I mean, it's like Soros hates Xi Jinping. Like it's like.
Right.
And they're all the left, and the left is bad. That's why we got to vote for Republicans. Yeah, it's just
That's
dumb.
what happened. Yeah, they really did trickle down to it's China and communist and dictator. Oh my god, and it was just weird. But I was also remembering like today when I was at remember the Jimmy Dore Medicaid for All protest?
Yeah.
I went, and that was the beginning of the fandom thing, like where people would go and what the hell's that guy's name? The Kyle Kulinski.
Okay.
a lot of fans would go there and like protest and stuff, and they would be like, oh, sorry, my kid is here now. So they Kyle Kalinske fans, and then Jimmy Dore fans, and then it was like people like, oh, I hate you guys, and like everybody was like being disrespectful to everybody, and like I remember I put in like AOC lied because she wait, hold on. Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, talk to me later, dude. I'll be right there. Sorry. So yeah, so I went and my son I made my son, I should have not, but I put AOC lied because she didn't support the Medicaid for All protest and didn't mention anything about it. Jimmy
Right.
Dore exposed it. And then we had that on and we said AOC is a liar, and we had people in that protest who told us we shouldn't be there. And they're like, you guys can't be wearing that. AOC helped us a lot and this and that. I'm like, and then my sister intervened, and it was those fucking fucking liberals that try to tell brown people to fucking no, don't wear that, don't do that, like, and it's like, oh, those people with those round glasses, like.
And didn't they take the, like in LA, the convo couch, they like pulled the microphone away from them or something, or wouldn't let them speak because they
Yeah, I
weren't
remember
vaccinated or
something
something?
like that.
Yeah.
It was a weird thing with that because I remember a lot of people were like, "Oh, you can't do this." Like it was very policing, like, but we're doing a good cause, and it was a good cause, that Jimmy Dore did, and and then this one guy said, "Oh, you watch what's his name? There's a name they call like Doorknob or you watch that guy it's because of him. You guys wear that and this and that." I'm like, that was kind of like the beginning of me realizing that the far left or the left protest kids don't like us already.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
went to the Medicare march in New York. I did notice that there were like Republicans there that were pro
Mhm.
Medicare for all, which I thought was fine. Like, what's wrong with that? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
there were some Republicans there. And that there were also like some regular leftists there. And then there were also just a lot of people that were like Jimmy Dore fans and stuff like there.
Yeah.
And that also like in Kentucky or like some state, there was some like former Nazi who wanted to speak at the event, and like he didn't end up doing it. And so, but they wrote like an article about that in like all these mainstream outlets, like, like moveon.org and stuff, or what was it? Like all these Common Dreams and all these people did all these articles. Oh, there was this Nazi who was going to be at the rally and he wasn't even there. But it was like, that was the story, was this Nazi might be at the rally, and it was like one guy. The whole thing was just really bizarre.
Yeah.
And the way like the whole Medicare for all marches were just like declared to be fascist. You were a bad person if you went to them. And then even the marchers themselves, like you said, there was like a lot of like policing and, back and forth and, yeah, that was weird. It was kind of hopeful that those rallies happened. They were really good rallies to do. It was a really
Yeah.
good initiative. And I wish they had kept going. I wish they'd kept doing that. It's kind of like, I've noticed that, so it's like there was the Rage Against the War Machine. They had their big rally. And then it kind of went away. They did a smaller rally right before the election, but it didn't get anywhere near as publicity. And the Medicare for All march, they did one day of action and then they went away. And it's like the internet is very good at this fandom stuff, getting people fighting, right? Is that, and then they amp up, they get all the influencers to fight with everybody, and then you don't have another rally,
Then
So
it disappears, and it's like we have real people their real lives, it's like we're not just protesting to be cool. Like I don't want to fucking be cool. I could care less. It's like I want to do something for real, and it's like people just think it's a joke, and that's what pisses me off a lot. And I try not to get mad, but sometimes it does get me upset. But like that's why I'm like, you know what? The best thing is to just be kind of intuitive with what you research and what you look into, and then do it out of like love and out of caring for the people to understand what's going on. And it's like you got to be really like patient, and you got to be understanding that these people do not know what the hell they're saying sometimes. So it's a lot of that, and like it's just sometimes I get just so mad because people are just so irresponsible. Like they're like, oh, let me just be popular on Instagram or on Facebook or on Twitter and just
Yeah.
make this post and ask people questions and make them look stupid. Like and it's like yeah, I think it's kind of like humiliating people and like, dehumanizing in a way, like, oh, this guy said this and that, ha ha ha. Like, it's not funny. People really think these things because the media lied to us for so many years, and it's like they're not doing anything. They're just posting them on social media to make fun of them and stuff. And that's why I've been like disappointed in a lot of the
Well, and that's why
social
we
media.
have to just do it ourselves. Like that's
Yeah.
been the whole like motto of CPI. I guess that maybe we're like Nike, just do it, right? Like
Right,
you
right.
can't wait for anybody else. We just have to just do it. We
Right.
need to promote Ibrahim Traore. We're doing our interventions at the No Kings rally. We're doing it, right? When we
Yeah.
see a need for a message to get out there, we just do it. We did our days of
Yeah.
action to support peace with Russia. When we want to do stuff, we just do it. We don't have to wait for anybody. We don't have to beg anybody. And that a lot of people they feel like they have to play 3D chess and like beg and compromise with people. No, you don't. You just do it. Just do it.
No.
Yeah, just
It's
do
not
it,
that
right?
crazy. It's not that crazy. Just gotta talk to people. Just gotta see where we align and where we could connect, and then from there, still, have discussions, and sometimes
And
it's gonna be
also,
uncomfortable.
people are attracted to action, right?
Yeah.
If you do stuff, and that's something that people don't get. It's like you don't have an organization by just saying you're an organization. You have to be in motion. There has to be a
Yeah.
reason for it to exist, right? And so as CPI, we're always doing stuff. We have national days of action, we have interventions, we have book reading groups. We're always doing stuff, and that's how you build and maintain an organization, is by functioning, by operating, and
Yeah.
and we're
And
doing it.
we
So
live in like a world like where people are, like you said yesterday, or when, I forgot when, but you were like, people are just jealous, and people like Khrushchev, like
Mhm.
when I heard his speech, it was all like he was just hating, like on Stalin, like, because Stalin did manage to mobilize, and it was good and everything like that. And I remember the reading sessions that we had for the book, we're talking about like how there's no leadership in the West. Like, Trump is not a good leader. Past leaders are not responsible, and it's like we don't have that role model, and it's like everything's been lost. And like that's what scares me the most, is that we have, like, I have kids, you guys have nieces, nephews, family, like, and they don't look up to anything. They look up to YouTubers, or they look up to singers and all of that. Like, that's nice and like this whatever, but that's short term. You need a long term admirer, like
Yeah.
that's why I said it's good to believe in God and spiritual alignment and have a spirituality connection. And that's why I like what we do, because it's spiritual as well. It's not just we're learning this and that about
Yeah. Do you have your icons?
yeah, I do. It's right here, but it
Show
fell.
me.
But my it's in the way right now. It just the tape fell, but I have it here, so it's right here. It's messy. And I
Wow.
have
Look
the
at that.
CPI poster right there.
Mhm. Look at
And
that.
I have
Hugo Chavez.
yes, and it has faith makes all things possible. So like
Very
I
good.
have a lot of things to look in, like, at night. Like,
Very
oh,
good.
okay. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of, there's no good role models today, and it's scary because a lot of kids look up to YouTubers that talk about brain rot, and like that's crazy. But like I
Yep.
said, it's a lot of that. But yeah, I mean,
Well,
it's
you're
just
doing a great
crazy.
job, Gabby. You're very
Yeah,
active, and you're doing a lot, and you're very engaged in the community, and you're
it's
a
not
big part of
easy
this
though.
book. You have a whole section in this book. Your article about joining
Oh, yeah.
CPI. It's big.
Oh wow.
You gotta get your hands on this book. We'll
I
give you
will.
one when you come to the event in January. But yeah, your article, how we're building a movement that matters, right?
Yeah.
And then the picture of you with it, right?
Yeah.
We have a centerfold, right? We
Oh
have,
yeah.
and then
My
you
aunt took
protesting in
that
Minneapolis.
picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So your article about why you joined CPI and being part of
Yeah.
a team is in there. So it's good stuff. It's
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
coffee table
It's a
book.
big book. It's really
It is. Well, we're going to put out one every year for every time we have a convention to like document that we did it, as like a record,
That's awesome. Yeah, because we do a lot, and we're not just talking in the internet. We're just always talking about days of action, and we always talk every Saturday. And I can't join as much because I work weekends now, but I just listen to you guys. But I mean, it's good stuff what we're doing, and I like what LA people are doing.
Yeah. Well, we've got our event in January coming up, January 11th in New Jersey. You're going to be there, and so will other people from around the country. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, as soon as I get back, the hotel will be booked and we can start selling tickets to that event because because we need to get going on building that event. So thank you for all that you do, Gabby. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dare to struggle, dare to win.
Yeah, dare to struggle, dare to win. Good night.
All right. Good night. Oh, that's Gabby. She's great. She's great. All right. Well, anybody else who wants to join, please feel free. I'm going to put on a clip. We did our Summit Against Hypocrisy a couple of years ago, and we made Peter Coffin made a great film of the event. And this is a clip from that film, and I'll put that on while I wait for anyone else who wants to join.
I did start to get passionate. I told some stories from my own past and how I got involved in it and what this movement and socialism has really meant in my life, how grateful I am for the older communists who mentored me. I've made a lot of sacrifices to be where I am, but I've also gotten a lot of help and mentorship over the years, and I want to acknowledge that.
Really one of the most interesting nights of my life, which is when I was invited to speak at the hall where Malcolm X was assassinated in Harlem. There was a political prisoners benefit. And it was a political prisoners benefit. There were supporters of people from the Move 9 who were still locked up at that point. There were supporters of Mumia Abu Jamal and Jamil Al-Amin. And I walked into this auditorium and they had like a light where at the spot where Malcolm X had died. And I was on a panel and I was like the one white guy there. People were joking about the flyer and they're like, one of these speakers is a little bit different than all the other ones. But, I was the only white guy there, and I looked out on that audience. I spoke for like 3 minutes. It was a very short presentation. But when I looked out on that crowd of several hundred people in there, I thought, I'm speaking to a group of veterans. I looked out on that crowd because these were black liberation fighters. These were Black Panthers. These were, Black Liberation Army former members. These were black nationalists and others and in walkers. And when people were speaking, they were shaking and having flashbacks, and there were a lot of tears in their eyes. And I thought, this is like a veterans gathering. This is like speaking at the VFW, right? And I mean, there's rooms like this in Ireland, in Northern Ireland. There's rooms like this in South Africa. There's rooms like this in people's Korea, and this is a group of people who have made great sacrifices, and they're there to support their comrades who are still locked up, and they're in this for real, and they've seen it. And I looked out on that crowd and I thought, again, these are people who understand how serious it is, and this is how important all of this can be.
Communism will save America. China has created a system that's raising up its poorest people, its peasants, raised out of poverty. They're creating a system that gets to the base of the economy and recreates it so that the working class can rise. Unlike in this country, where homeless people sleep a block from the White House.
After the summit, we protested against the Museum of the Victims of Communism, which is nothing but spreading pro-imperialist lies, demonizing the history of the Soviet Union and China.
So trying to fight something that literally how the circumstances change. Well, instead of fighting against people around the world, we should be fighting against those bankers who set up that situation. We should be building a coalition of people with different perspectives who are going to stand up against big banks and corporations. That's what I think.
You're looking at Country Joe and the Fish. Little known fact, there was a band that played at Woodstock called Country Joe and the Fish Band. And the reason they have that name, according to every source that I can check, is because their parents were members of the Communist Party USA, and they picked the name for some pretty interesting reasons. Now, this guy was Country Joe because he was from Georgia, from the countryside. He grew up in a small village. He was the son of a bootmaker. And this guy was the Fish because one of his most well-known quotations, before he even started his organization, he just walked 300 miles through the countryside, talking to every person he could meet, asking them about the conditions of their life, engaging with them. He says, how should we judge whether or not a youth is a revolutionary? How can we tell? Well, there can only be one criteria, namely whether or not he's willing to integrate himself with the broad masses of the workers and the peasants, and he does so in practice. The masses are the water, and the revolutionaries are the fish. Country Joe and the fish.
We are educating, we're agitating, we're demonstrating, and we're normal people. That's the best part. Pretty normal.
Let's fix our government right here at home to provide for working people before we go 7,000 miles away to waste young, precious lives over something as dumb as anti-communism.
Afterwards, a few of us went to New York City to protest against Tsai Ing-wen, the Taiwan president.
All the polls show the American people don't want a new war. The American people are sick and tired of our money being wasted on bombs and weapons and destruction, provoking a war with China, provoking a war with Russia, while our dreams are derailing, people in the United States are suffering.
Tsai Ing-wen came to the United States to beg for more weapons and to demonize China. And the Center for Political Innovation, we were in the streets of New York City confronting the Taiwan president and her effort to spread war.
China is not our enemy. China is not our enemy. China is not our enemy. Get out of our country. Stop trying to sell war in our country. Stop trying to sell war in our country. We don't want a new war with China. We love America and we don't want a new war with China. China is not our enemy. Stop trying to sell war. Get out of our country. Stop trying to sell war.
You know, what we did with Tsai Ing-wen, that went viral in Chinese media. Over 1 million shares. I was interviewed about it by Global Times. The Global Times, one of the main publications in China, made a point of highlighting the Center for Political Innovation, finding out about our work and why we do what we do. That was really, really great.
I'm a patriotic American. I love my country and I don't want World War III.
After all is said and done, Summit for Hypocrisy was a great success, and we can see that success. Look at all of the leftoids tailing us. They were calling us fringe, they were calling us cringe, and then a week later they all shut up, and then they started copying our organizing tactics. And I'm glad that they do. We know what the problem is, we are offering solutions.
In my eyes, CPI represents faith in humanity and the belief that there is an optimistic future to fight for, that your neighbor and the people around you aren't just stupid and in your way, but actually the hope for the future is in building relationships.
Yeah, that was the Summit Against Hypocrisy we did back in 2023. Checkpoint Charlie, how you doing?
Hi, how you doing? All right. I don't know what to talk about. I'll talk about anything and everything.
All right.
I have a couple of anecdotes I guess I could bring up right now.
Okay.
I remember my father telling me when Stalin, you're talking about parental transference, right?
Yeah.
So when Stalin died, my grandfather was very sad, about that, so I think that had something to do with that. And also when I was a kid in my city in Romania, not long before I left, my mom's cousin was a university professor, and one day she took me to class with her. I sat in class, and most of the students were that I can remember they're foreigners out of Middle Eastern. So I remember some of the students, I guess they were Lebanese, and they gave me like this like big type pen, disposable pen, which I don't remember having those in Romania back then. So it was pretty cool for me as a kid. We only had like those old types that you fill in with the ink.
Oh wow.
And so like I remember like kind of like rooting for the Lebanon. The Lebanese flag as a kid, because I was influenced by them. I was like impressed. But those are a couple of small things to mention.
Yeah. So yeah, you grew up under Ceausescu.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, I left right after Chernobyl. It just so
Wow.
happened, like a couple of weeks after. Yeah, I remember they as a as a precaution, I guess they told us to fill up the bathtub with water,
Mm.
something like that, because weren't that far. I was in eastern Romania and Moldova, not the country Moldova, but the Moldova that's still part of Romania.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, anyway, you guys are talking some music. I'm pretty big into some music. There's that. There's living in New York City and the experiences like that I'm in Kew Gardens, but um, it's really it's my girlfriend's longtime girlfriend. It's as if we're married.
Mm.
Like 2 decades really. It's her apartment. She's paying the mortgage on it, and my father's paying rent just on the other side of Forest Park here. I help him out with the rent so he can manage.
Mm-hmm.
But really, like if it wasn't for my girlfriend or my father, as long as he's still alive, he's pretty up there in age. With what I make, I I would be lucky if I could find like a room that I
Wow.
could pay for for as little as possible, knowing how ridiculous rents are,
Yeah.
mortgages are, and just incredible. Like like you're lucky if only half of your earnings go to just rent.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
The rate of home ownership, private home ownership, is higher in communist countries than in America. In Cuba, people own their homes more than Americans do. In China, people own their homes. And private home ownership is supposed to be what capitalism is about, right? It's your private property. People in communist countries have more private property in terms of their own home than we do here in America, right? It's absolutely wild. And it's completely artificial. I mean, the law of supply and demand says that the price of housing, the rent, the mortgages should all go down because there's so much demand for it. But they have rigged the government to make sure that doesn't happen because that's how capitalism works. And these people say, well, that's not real capitalism, Caleb. That's crony capitalism. Where has capitalism not been crony capitalism? Show me any place where the rich people don't use their wealth and power to rig the government in their favor, so yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the housing costs are absolutely ridiculous, and they should be doing something about that. That is what is squeezing so many working people, is just the ability to get a roof over their head. It's absolutely crazy. And there's so much housing in this country. You drive through America, look, there's so many buildings. There's no reason that housing should be this expensive, but these bankers have got a monopoly, and yeah, that's the situation we're in. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. New York City is the worst. I mean, the rent here is insane. I mean, I don't even want to say what I'm paying here. And if I didn't have to live in New York City for my job, I wouldn't live here because the cost of housing is ridiculous. It's a crime, the amount of rent I pay. And, and I don't even live in Manhattan. I'm in Brooklyn. Imagine if I was in Manhattan, it would just be good night. Just forget it, and the quality of life has gone down in the city so much since the pandemic. It should be cheaper to live here now because the nightlife isn't what it used to be. All the stuff that used to draw people to the city isn't here, right? The city has really deteriorated, so it should be less expensive. Property values should be dropping because of all the homeless people and the crime and all that. So why is it more expensive? What in the world is going on? Pretty crazy, isn't it?
yeah, if even if I made significantly more, if I were alone, we have a bunch of cats, so it's hard to, you kind of have to have a more space for them. But if I was alone, I would get a van, man, and
Oh,
live in a
wow.
van because it's a much more freeing, and like what are you working for? Just to be able to barely pay the rent and survive.
Yeah.
It forces you into thinking that way.
Yikes.
Yeah, I lived in Boston for like almost 2 years. I moved there like 20 years ago, and
Well,
I just found the cheapest possible place that I could find in all of Boston at the time. This was in '04, '05. was $350 per month for a nice little studio apartment, which was supposedly the ghetto, but it didn't seem like the ghetto to me, compared to New York, to what I see in New York. Maybe there were like drug things going on, but I mind my own business. Nobody bothered me. So,
Well, at one point, when I first moved into the city, I lived out in Queens, and I rented a basement with 4 other people. There was 5 of us total, and it was one basement, one room, and we put up curtains between us, and we sold newspapers to pay our bills. And I would go out every day in Union Square and in other parts of Manhattan and sell the communist newspaper on the street. And I'd bring home $60-$70 every night, from selling communist newspapers all day, going up and down the subway trains. Would you like to buy the communist newspaper? $1, I would, and, I lived that way. And it was, I had a mattress on a floor, and I had a sheet, between me and the other person's private space, and we lived that way. And, it was pretty wild, but we accomplished something. We were fighting for a cause. I don't know. It was, and we had some pretty good political. There was a lot going on, and I was able to just do political activism. And those were life-changing years for me in a lot of ways. And I think about those people that I lived with in that basement and how they've all gone their separate ways. 3 of them don't even live in this country anymore. So 2 of them defected to China, and the other one defected to someplace in Central America. And and we were just, we were young communist activists in New York City, and we had rallies supporting North Korea. That was one thing that we did, is that they made the movie Red Dawn, and they made another movie called Olympus Has Fallen. It was 2013. And so we had rallies outside the big movie theaters in Times Square with big pictures of Kim Il-sung protesting the anti-North Korean films. And those rallies made a big splash. And I found out then, when I went to Ecuador, the North Koreans, not only did they know about those rallies, but they'd shown them on state TV in North Korea. Right. And it was just, us protesting, outside the movie theater. And, we were being provocative. We had big, big North Korean flags. We had big pictures of Kim Il-sung, and we had big signs that said, like, Kim Il-sung is a revolutionary hero. Wall Street runs Hollywood. It was provocative. We were being, we were trying to create attention, but it was just a small group of people, but it created a splash. And we were renting a basement out in Queens, and oh man, it was wild. It was wild. And, I think about, being out and talking to people is just such a really good way to enhance your skill, just to go out and engage with people and have people ask you tough questions about politics. And I feel like I really learned a lot during those years, because I was out in the street talking to people all the time. I was on the subway. I was going up and down the, Washington Square Park and Union Square. And I was constantly engaging with people about politics, and it was a very productive thing. And, to have a street team, street outreach, nowadays so much activism is online, right? But street outreach is valuable because it's people who wouldn't go looking for you. It's just whoever happens to be there, and that can be very, very valuable. So my best wishes to you and your father and your girlfriend out there in Queens. I hope things go well. Anything else you want to add, Checkpoint Charlie, before I bring in Johnny?
I could just mention that movie that I brought up for just a little bit, some clarification.
Okay.
Possession.
Okay.
A 1980 movie. It was directed by a Polish guy who had been pushed out of his country.
Okay.
And he had gone through like a divorce that really, really affected him. And I think that's what really it's about, the movie, more than I think the political part of it, that it's right by the Berlin Wall. It plays a role, but maybe it's more of a veneer. I think it's maybe reflects his mental state. That's why it's so disturbing. And the characters in that movie, I'm sure it's not by accident, all seem like they have no soul. Like they just seem soulless. Like everything they do is like kind of like fake. And yet, they're extremely emotional. Like just the acting is incredible. But yeah, it brings up so many huge things that I think people, you know, we can all identify with, but it's extremely disturbing. So, and you know, you know, I could see how you could look at it as being very negative, you know. But yeah, it's weird. It's like it's a love and hate kind of thing. It's like it's on the one hand, it's just horrific. On the other, it's wonderful.
Well, maybe I
You
should
know?
I should watch this movie, Possession. I'll check it out. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, all right.
Well, best wishes,
Good luck
Charlie.
out there.
Yep. Johnny, I can't hear you. I'm not getting any sound. Not getting any sound from you, Johnny. Yeah, no audio. You want to try to come in again? Maybe come in again. You've been on here before and I can always hear you, but I'm not getting any audio from you. Oh, now you muted. Okay. Nope. Can't hear you. Yeah, maybe you should come back in. Maybe you should go out and then come back in. Yeah. That was weird. Yeah. Yep. Well, there we go. There we go. Maybe he'll come back in and be able to do audio. But yeah, anyone can hop on. Sarah, you should hop on, right? You know, you're always online. You ought to hop on the stream. You know, it'd be great to have you jump on, or anybody else, right? Let's see if Johnny comes back in. If not, we might put on a clip. We are past the 2-hour mark. We should probably start wrapping this up because I got to travel tomorrow. But keep an eye out for the mega videos. We're doing mega videos on this channel. Big, long, mega premiere videos on this channel. Oh, here's Johnny. Johnny. Oh, I heard like a click. But I'm not hearing your voice. No, I heard like a click, but I'm not hearing your voice. Sorry. Yeah, there's something wrong with your audio, Johnny. Not hearing you. But Unanimous jumped in for a minute. Does he want to come back on? Does Unanimous want to come back on? But yeah, Johnny, I'm not hearing your audio. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it looks like there's some technical difficulty. But yeah, Unanimous jumped in. If he wants to jump back in, he's welcome to come back on. You know. But yeah, I might put on another clip here. You know, just to celebrate the beauty of what we do here, right? Hey, Unanimous, what's happening?
Oh, just wanted to say, it looks like someone sent in there's a Rumble rant about.
There's two of them, actually. Okay. Yep. Okay. Penny sent about Burkina Faso refused Trump's deportees, so the U.S. Embassy stopped issuing visas in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso retains its dignity and still offers free visa to Africans who come freely on their own dime. Okay. And Caleb, some black people in Memphis are praising Trump for reducing crime. It's weird because Trump basically turned American cities into a counterinsurgency front, but he isn't bringing in jobs. Well, you know, the crime issue is a tough one, right? You know, anyone who's been a victim of crime, it's a horrendous, traumatic experience. I've been robbed before, and it's not a great experience. And I can understand why somebody would want there to be swift consequences for that. And, you know, this assumption, again, there is this problem with liberals, which is that they assume that because people are in some oppressed group, right, that they therefore agree with them on all issues. And that is not the case. That's never been the case. Right. You know, I mean, I mean, watch Penny. She has a video where she's interviewing one of her coworkers who's an African American woman, and she's very much taking an anti-immigration stance. Well, I mean, a lot of African Americans feel that the immigrant community, they have resentment against the immigrant community. Why wouldn't they, right? Often low-income African Americans and immigrants are competing for the same jobs, right? But it's like liberals, they have this blind spot where it's like the only people that buy into Trump's anti-immigrant position are racist white guys who, have $1 million houses or something. There's kind of this erasing of, this is a big part of the virtue signal politics, right? Is that they assume that everyone, it's like basically they have a category in their mind of there's good people and bad people. And if you are a good person, you must agree with them. And if you're oppressed, if they deem you to be oppressed, you're a good person. And that's a really common mistake too. The prisons are full of victims. The prisons are full of people that have had awful lives, that have been, that have been victimized by the system, that have grown up in communities without investment, that have been, gone to awful schools. The prisons of this country are full of people, low-income people, white and black, who've had awful experiences in life and been very much mistreated and are very much victims. But a lot of the people in the prisons have done really, really awful things. Being victimized made them somebody who could victimize other people. It's that whole thing about hurt people. And that a lot of times the leftist and liberal narratives don't comprehend that. It's like, well, you can either be a hurt person or you're a bad person. And it's like, well, no, hurt people. And a lot of times, people who've had a hard life are the ones who can go on and victimize others, right? And that, and you think about PTSD, you think about mental illness, you think about trauma, you think about desperation. And that's, again, there's this assumption that if people are oppressed, they're therefore good. And that is not the case, right? And it's kind of an ugly reality, right? It's kind of an ugly reality of kind of the hollowness of, I wouldn't say the liberal worldview, the woke worldview. The woke worldview is very much this kind of politics of vengeance, this politics of libidinal, this politics of victimhood. And the world, again, if you want to go look for who is hurting people, it's victims, right? Hurt people, as they say. So, and that doesn't fit the liberal narrative, because you have to be a good person or a bad person. If someone hurt you, then you're a victim. But if you then go around and hurt somebody else, well, then you can't be a good person anymore. You're not a victim. They're lost, they're lost. And, again, they want to have this kind of shrill narrative where they can just point to the bad guy or the good guy. And it's never that simple, right? Yes, I'm sure that there are a lot of people in Memphis and other cities that are low-income African-American folks who, yes, the system has not been good to them, has not given them opportunities. But as a result of that, there are big problems with crime in their neighborhood. And they see Trump's policies as fixing that. And they're happy about that, right? And you can go to them and say, oh, well, actually, the problem is, racism and all of that. And they might even agree with you. But they might say, also, I want a solution, and that is another thing, is that you can't solve problems with slogans, right? You can't. And that's why the issue of immigration, I am for the rights of immigrants. I think that all the things that Republicans want to do to address the crisis of mass migration are going to make things worse. But the way the left talks to people about immigration is very, very ineffective, because all they do is shout slogans. No one is illegal. Well, no one is illegal doesn't address the issue now, does it? You can say no one is illegal. Okay. No one's illegal. And what do we do? Right. And it's kind of like, you can, if you're a low income person in Memphis and there's crime in your neighborhood, that's caused by the history of racism. Yes. That's caused by economic lack of opportunity. Yes. That doesn't solve the problem now, does it? So what do we do to address the issue? Well, that's caused by okay, great. But what do we do? Right. And that kind of, the leftist politics is very, very interesting when you first hear about it, because unless you are in like a leftist space, people don't acknowledge it. right? It's, I mean, I think, who was it? The Judge Judy had a children's book, Win or Lose by How You Choose, right? And generally the, non-woke way we talk about crime is, well, people make bad choices and they need to be punished for those bad choices, and if that's all you're understanding, right? If you then come to understand, well, not everyone has the same opportunities in life, and that people make choices based on the circumstances they're in. People aren't born in a vacuum. That's really a profound revelation, that not everyone has the same opportunities, and that, yes, people make choices, but the choices they make are heavily influenced by their life circumstances, etc. That's a really profound point that conservative society doesn't generally acknowledge. But once we realize that, then you get to the next point, which is, so what do we do? And that's where the left doesn't have an answer. The left doesn't have an answer. They just want to talk about, it's like, there's like the foundation, which is just, this problem exists. And then there's this other layer, which is, why does the problem exist? But you still need to come up with a solution. And if you don't have an actual solution, level 2 of why does this problem exist might be interesting if you've never gone there before, because that's the way people used to be pre-woke. It was just standard that, anyone who robs somebody should just get locked up. Tough on crime. That was the policy, and that was awful, mass incarceration and all of that. And so now, as a result of woke, which this is actually one of the positive aspects of woke, is now we're starting to say what only leftists used to say, which is, why do we have these circumstances? And it's an important conversation to have, but we still haven't solved the problem, right? And that, if you have to solve the problem, it gets very messy, right? Solving the problem is a lot messier than just being able to be very profound in explaining why the problem exists, and call people heartless for not caring about why the problem exists. But you still have the problem. And we still have to solve the problem. And that's where it gets messy, because, I have really, really emphasized, if I've learned anything, you have to emphasize program, a transitional program. All right. If what, and this is all the fake socialist groups, this is what they do. They have the maximum program, which is revolution. And then they have the minimum program, which is whatever the Democrats are doing, standard Democrat Party policies. That's not real organizing. You need a transitional program. You need policies, actual policies that could actually be implemented, that raise the property question, that point to how our society could be organized in a different way. And that's what our 4-point economic plan as CPI is. But communist groups, that are just liberal counter gangs, that are just, counter gangs, woke counter gangs, that's what they do, is they offer whatever the Democrats are currently advocating and some extreme vision of all-out revolution. And neither of those things are actually doing what you're supposed to do. Is you're supposed to raise the property question. You're supposed to put forward actual policies that could be implemented that would solve problems and improve people's lives, right? You need a platform. You need a platform. That's what you need. You need a platform. But anyway, folks, look, I'm headed overseas for a week or so. I'll be back. So keep an eye out for the mega videos. Another thing. So first of all, we do have this call, right? We are calling on people to disrupt the No Kings rallies. Do it, right? Disrupt the No Kings rallies. Do it. Like, we need people to do it. Disrupt the No Kings rallies. Raise hands off Venezuela. That is our call. Do it. Right? Don't break the law. Don't do anything illegal, but raise your voice at the No Kings rallies. That's one thing. But the other thing, if there's another thing, if you want to help me, right? This isn't helping the revolution necessarily. I mean, vaguely. This isn't helping, but if you want to help me, drop me a review, right? I've written a lot of books. I enjoy writing, and that's what motivates me. So if you liked this book, go and drop me a review. You like this book, go and drop me a review. You like this book, go and drop me a review. You like this book, go and drop me a review. I need reviews. Reviews are good for me. I'm selling a lot of books lately, right? I've noticed that every day I'm selling more books than I've ever sold, which I feel good about. I don't get paid for a couple months. So down the road, I'll be very happy about all the books I sold in September. But one thing that would be really great is if you could all drop me a review. One thing, I'm not trying to get rich by writing books. The money helps, but I make them audiobooks for free. I mean, this book is an audiobook for free. This book is an audiobook for free. You just go to the playlist on this channel, hit audiobooks. I've got my website is going to be going up pretty soon. So if you just want to listen to my books, but drop me a review. Reviews help. They really, really do, because every so often I just get somebody, who, just doesn't like me or has a bug up their butt or whatever. And, they drop a negative review. So if you like my books, I need you to be vocal, and you don't have to just, review on, if you literally, you just, you can drop a review on Goodreads. Goodreads is helpful as well. I worked temporarily in an Upper West Side building. One of the tenants swiped my Divisions in the Ruling Class book. Well, that's probably because he was interested, right? He probably was actually very interested in the topic, and I hope he liked it. And I hope, I hope you can get another one. It's, not a hugely expensive book, or you can just listen to the audiobook, but that shows, again, people like this. People like what I have to offer. I will say I am one of the best kept secrets. There has been a big effort to kind of prevent people from seeing me, and, I don't want to bitch and moan about that all night, because, it gets pretty obvious at some points, but people generally like what I have to offer. So, if you can drop me a review, that would be awesome. It is a good sign. It means more people are opening up and hungry for this perspective. We're just going to keep going. January 11th, we're having an event to kick off the new year in New Jersey. It's going to be a great event, and hopefully the hotel will be booked as soon as I'm back. I'm just like, ugh. It's cash flow, right? They want you to spend all the money now, and I'm just constantly balancing which bill do I have to pay now. It's, but anyway, I'm trying to get the venue booked, and then we'll start selling tickets for the event. We're going to honor a couple great activists from New Jersey who've done a life of great anti-imperialist work. We're going to have just a great event in New Jersey on January 11th. So keep that in mind. And folks, I'm going to end the stream for tonight, and I'm going to head to bed because I got to hit the road in the morning. But keep an eye out for the mega videos that premiere on the channel. And all I can say is have a good night. And I'll try to be back from overseas. I'll try to get some good video while I'm overseas, and you'll see my trip. All right. Thanks.
New upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. While the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.